support game plan appropriately. Let's see how the rest of the comp is built around these guys. You've got the Galio, so plenty of protection so far from these first couple of picks.
We saw what RNG did yesterday with the Jarvan Galio combo. They won't be able to get the full setup of it, but with Sejuani still up and available, you're already looking at what could be an extremely strong engage with a very reliable follow-up in the form of the Galio.
Yeah, and a lot of these picks are denial picks. You're blocking the Jarvan Galio, you're blocking the Tristana lane, and I feel like here, if WE doesn't lock in their AD carry, they just get 2 more bans towards that role to nerf Mystic, so to speak, who has been such a big part of their game plan all throughout Worlds.
And that's why you're going to see him locking in that Twitch that we mentioned just a couple of moments ago. That one's going to be in the hands of Mystic this time around. Of course, you'll have Galio's Hero's Entrance to protect him, along with the Janna and everything else. And there's that Terra cover. We were also mentioning that just a couple of moments ago. We've seen some big performances out of this champion. We saw during play-in stage, even during the main group stage, and Flash Wolves pick it up.
Yeah, not too hard to connect the dots here, just off of the ban phase, making sure that you're picking the role so it can't get starved further. I think that's why we see the Twitch and the Terra pick.
We're now looking at things like the top and mid lane priority coming out from both these teams. Now, if you're the Flash Wolves, you do have the ability to flex the Jarvan to both top and in the jungle, so there's that element of surprise that they could still bring out. Remember that champions like the Sejuani still available, Gragas up and available too. As I say that, Flash Wolves immediately go for it.
You jinxed it, Vedius. Sejuani, the first ban of the second part of the bans here in this game. Let's see how Team WE wants to respond to that one. Do they want to focus similar big frontliners? Nope, they want to take Orianna out.
Yeah, I think it's a little interesting that they're focusing mid lane bans rather than top lane bans, since very often the very first pick by red side after the second ban phase is that Cho'Gath or that Maokai. However, this is the team in Flash Wolves that did play up against the Trundle, and I wonder if they're going to be scared off of that early Cho'Gath pick, assuming the Team WE continues to ban mid laners.
Yeah, they had a scary game against Misfits. Like they mentioned it on the desk, they didn't get a kill. That's something that doesn't just get washed out of your mind very easily, not something that you're going to quickly forget. So they've got to be ready to adapt to those kinds of situations here, especially with this being the last game for this team here in Week 1. If you lose this, you go 0-3 into Week 2, and that is a hard hand to be dealt.
The logic here from Team WE could be that by banning away mid laners, they could be trying to force Flash Wolves into an early mid lane pick so that they can then try and get themselves the counter. Or they're basically saying, look, we're expecting you to first pick your top laner. We can then pick up what we think is the strongest mid laner left, and then you're running out of options.
Well, if you want to talk about strong mid laners at Worlds, we've been seeing this guy get a lot of attention so far. Ryze, the hover from Flash Wolves right now, but now they're switching back over to the Shen, and it looks like that will be the lock-in.
Fascinating. So they only have the one jungle ban. They decide to still wait for the counter pick in the mid lane because they obviously don't know exactly where that Galio is going to be going. Going to see the solo laner lock in as well as the jungle here for Team WE.
Rumble there in the solo lane, so plenty of AP damage will be coming out of him.
Yeah, and this is very close to the quintessential Galio composition where you have the Jarvan lock everyone in for the Galio ult and the Rumble ult, but they don't have the Jarvan to keep him in there, so this is a much more unreliable version of that combo.
But they will still have the Gragas available. Another good jungler that we've seen quite a lot out of from different teams, and WE will have it this time around.
A lot of reliance now is going to be on Condi to be the big initiator for a lot of these late game fights, because their mid game spike is decent with Rumble, but really they are going towards that mid to late game. What we got to remember is that the thing about Rumble is he often struggles against tanks in the late games. When you think about Cho'Gath, Maokai, his damage output is little to none, especially with the recent buffs that we had to Adaptive Helm. But unfortunately against Flash Wolves, they don't actually have that many super tanks. The Flash Wolves, they're going to be a little bit creative with their mid lane option.
I love Vladimir Taric as a combo. You just ghost in, and there's nothing that guy can do about it, especially a Twitch. You can even pool to lower the chance of a Janna disengage as you're flying in there with Ghost. So I've seen this combo work a lot. It's just oftentimes you can't get the Vladimir through the early laning phase. Enter Galio, you probably can. So I think that's one of the things that Flash Wolves is doing, hovering that Ryze and saying, wait a minute, if we get that Galio mid, we got something special.
And remember, Maple, that's who the desk was talking about, the guy that even in the first couple Flash Wolves games that they lost, he was the one who looked like he was trying to carry everyone else on his back, that he was the one who might have had some glimmer of hope at finding wins there. If there's a guy you're expecting to come in the clutch and make this a win for this team, it's going to be him.
I'm really excited to see what Maple can do on the Vladimir. I've seen a fair amount of Vladimir in Europe, played by a certain mid laner, but it's going to be exciting to see what it can do in the capable hands of Maple, who is a bit of a legend on the international stage.
Yeah, and has not played Vladimir at all in the summer split, so definitely trying to bring out something a little bit new.
Well, they'll definitely have their work cut out for them as they do have to take down Team WE to get there. WE currently sitting at 1-1. Flash Wolves at 0-2. Flash Wolves wins here. These two are going to be tied up in the standings. WE wins here. Flash Wolves drop to that 0-3 that nobody really wants to find themselves in. We touched on it just a moment ago, but now we're loading into Summer's Rift for the first time today, the final day of group stage battle here for week 1. Let's see which one of these two can do it.
And definitely have to focus down in that bottom lane with Mystic and Ben. The Relic Shield Twitch start. You wonder if that is going to get bullied a little bit by the Tristana with Thorin's Blade. That's what Betty and Sword Art are trying to do to that bottom lane. Not wanting Twitch to come online, so to speak, with the most likely Hurricane and Ardent Sensor power spikes.
I mean, Twitch is one of these AD carries that can really hyper carry a game, right? We've seen the damage output from this champion from other players like Bang and like Reckless. This is a guy who can decimate entire enemy lines, and when you've got an AD carry like Mystic, a guy you can rely on to be that big carry, WE's comfortable and confident putting him on that.
In order to set Mystic up for success, my eyes are going to be on players like Condi and GA. We did see in Condi's very first game of the group stages going up against Misfits. He was a big part of what enabled Mystic and Ben to get that big advantage down in the 2 versus 2, sending a lot of pressure there. But that was combined with the roams from GA as well. And what better champion to find those roams on than a level 6 Galio that can quite happily look to try and dive you under your turret.
Well, the big worry for WE in this team composition is where does the reliability come from? It's just Condi's Flash Engage, maybe Xie's Flash Engage, but he's mostly just going to be a delivery system off of Gragas' Body Slam. It is hard for them to force fights, and can they force fast enough to not get it turned around on them by a Terror Cult?
WE will walk their solo laners into the enemy jungle, steal away those small raptors with their combined AoE very quickly, actually. So they're not going to leave a lot of that extra experience there for Carson.
I really like that play, actually. It messes up Carson's jungle a little bit and leaves the big one up. So that's a lot of experience they leave on the table, but doesn't hurt them that much in the grand scheme of things. And those are two champions that are incredibly good at that. Rumble and Galio, just one spell each, they clear the whole camp.
It's going to force Carson with a slightly different early jungle path as well. You can see he's being forced now to clear his entire bottom side. He'll be able to get level 3 off of this, but then it will allow WE that information that, okay, Jarvan's probably going to be on the top, and that gives a little bit more freedom for Mystic and Ben to play as they like during the laning phase.
Well, I guess if you're trying to look on the bright side of life, Carson's at least going to take a little bit less of a punishment from this camp as he normally would. It's
normally a really hard camp for Jarvan to clear, and now they made it the single target camp for him, so
not that difficult.
I like the idea for the solo laners, but against Jarvan, you did him a little bit of a favor.
Yeah, I mean, you'd still like to have the extra gold, you'd like to have the experience, but again, you've got to find some sort of silver lining on the dark cloud of your camps being stolen away, and that'll be that for him as GA pushes up here in the mid lane. Carson grabs his red buff, and I'll have to see what exactly he decides to do with that one. Just takes his blast cone over, starts up the Krugs.
Yeah, he'll be doing a full clear, most likely recalling after that based on where his health pool will be after the Krugs. Not bad, actually. The more I think about it, I think Carson's pretty happy about not having to clear the small raptors. That camp is a pain for Jarvan. He still hits level 4 on his first clear, which he would have done regardless, and just misses out on the 60 gold from the little raptor.
And now that we're looking at the bottom lane, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about those two AD carries matching up against each other, because we already touched on Mystic and his ability to carry games and how he can be this hero for Team WE, but Betty has been doing good work for his team so far as well. You can see the KDA isn't quite as high, but for Betty, it's actually just a DA. It's a death to assist ratio, because he still does not have a kill.
Well, he's looking to try and get that on the Tristana today. You can see that his laning phase is pretty even going up against Mystic, but the damage share is still a big part of where Flash Wolves are doing in these team fights. The problem is Flash Wolves have often struggled to close out games, and that's not Betty's fault. He's just a facilitator of the damage. It's about the rest of the team coming together to properly set Betty up to be that big hyper carry, and what eyes will be on him as he is playing this Tristana as the game progresses.
Everything very even across all the lanes right now. You can see the farm in the top lane there very slightly favoring 957. mid lane and AD carries going just blow for blow in terms of their own farm as teleport used by GA to get back to mid lane after going back, doing a little bit of shopping. Wants to make sure that he does as much as he can to maintain control over this lane early on while that Vladimir is still building up strength.
And now thinking about how Flash Wars have played this group stages so far, we've seen relatively slow early games for the most part, apart from when they played up against TSM. And what Flash Wars are doing a good job of was forcing a lot of plays, putting TSM in situations where they didn't really want to fight. Often it resulted in Svenskeren getting caught out and giving a lot of early kills over to Flash Wars, which is what gave them that early lead, but then they struggled in the later game team fights. And the one big thing you have to praise Team WE for is their ability to fight, but then they never really got to show that against Misfits yesterday. So two of the things that we often praise these teams for, which is Flash Wars' early game aggression with Karsa and WE's team fight, they've kind of been lacking so far in this group stage.
Yeah, and you also have to ask yourself where that first big point of conflict is going to be. In a Galio Shen game, you're expecting it to probably be around the bottom side, unless Team WE do decide to target the Shen, which is a very real possibility. It's something MMD is going to have to watch out for.
WE really does not want to allow Karsa to get this chicken camp this game. They'll steal that one away. This time, big one included. Karsa's only taking a couple of babies with him.
This is good jungle control. You know, it's basically saying, you know what, we already want to have a little bit more pressure on the top side of the map, especially with Rumble perma pushing up there, and it gives them a bit of deep vision as well. So Team WE, they're going to feel pretty confident and just give that extra bit of safety to 957.
Karsa throwing down some vision in the enemy jungle, realizing that they're invading him, so it's a good idea to keep tabs on exactly what's going on that other end of the map as well. We often see junglers do this. They get invaded, they just clear their opponent's side as well, but not fall behind. A little bit of a scuffle down here in bottom. Mystic having that charge explode on him. GA mid lane with that level 6. Now might find himself in a 1 versus 2. Maple taken down below half. Karsa backs off. GA just fine here.
Yeah, two mid laners are going to have a hard time killing each other. I'm expecting a very early Abyssal Mask from the Galio, as it's such a good item on him, and that's just going to stop them from killing each other. And that's good. That's fine for Vladimir. Maple wants to wait until he's at 2 or 3 items to really turn on, and then the question will be, is Mystic at the point there where he can tread through the Vladimir, or can the Taric ultimate Vladimir run through the team? And if a jungler is going to go to make that gank, you have to maybe even send a third person.
I'm also curious as to how Flash Wars will utilize this Vladimir later on into the game. We see a bit of trading.
Oh, Penny going in very deep onto Mystic. Looking for that last auto attack to find the explosive charge. Mystic going to be, honestly, not that bad off.
Yeah, Flash Wars win that, though, because they only used one defensive summoner, whereas Team WE used both. Ben has gone with the exhaust instead of the classic heal barrier we're seeing so far. But the sustain war will be a question of how much Betty can heal up here. He's gone Fervor, not Warlord, so that's less sustain in lane. He may have to recall fairly soon.
Meanwhile, Condi level 6 on the Gragas. Karsa still without his own ultimate. We know both these junglers kind of flip a switch when they hit level 6. It's such powerful ganking tools for both. Hey, that feels so bad. Mid laner, the Gragas just scoots in there, but Condi does a good job delaying that back, make things a little bit less efficient for Maple in terms of his timings.
I'm curious what Flash Wars will do later on into the game as well, because just looking at some of the summer spells that we've also got on either side, you already mentioned the exhaust from Ben. I think that makes sense when going up against someone like a Vladimir who's going to be looking to dive onto the backline, and you just want to mitigate that threat onto your primary carry of Mystic. But also, there's no TP on top of Maple compared to the TP of GA. So WE, they have a few more options to play along these side lanes, but when you actually look at the comp of Flash Wars, they have a pretty strong 1-3-1. Will they try and utilize the Vladimir off on the side lane? Will they try and group him up? They actually have a few options, but it's that extra TP that their Flash Wars are going to have to respect.
Yeah, it is interesting for Team WE to go with the double teleport summoner choice without actually having the stronger 1-3-1, because oftentimes double teleport and 1-3-1 are synonymous, but you need the dude who can win the 1v1 late game for that to work. And I don't think that's true for the Rumble or the Galio. So it's almost like they're just laning phase summoner spells to keep map pressure up and allow Condi to try and get some invades going on, which we haven't necessarily seen yet, but we have seen them get deep wards, take the Raptors multiple times. So the map pressure is where they're trying to get their edge.
Yep, the early game going pretty slowly so far, but now Karsa's going to find Ben and he walks down into the bottom lane. Finds a nice little chunk of burst, but Ben's shield is fast enough to block a bit of it.
Is this where they use the proactive Shen ultimate? They definitely had a little bit of a tell, and they're giving time for them to respond. The teleports aren't up on Team WE yet, but Galio's moving into range to ult in.
And remember, there is no way for the Rumble to interrupt the Shen ulti. Here we go. Mystic gonna be jumped on. Has the explosive charge strapped onto his head, and he is done. First blood over the way of Karsa. Now seeing if they can get anything else. They're only gonna find a death onto Sword Art. The winds of war blow for Team WE, and they make it even.
The level 6 power spikes for both teams, but it's Flash Wolves that are faster on the trigger. They're the ones to set up the dive, but WE respond in kind. GA's able to position in a way to stop Flash Wolves from getting anything extra, and it ends up in a 1-for-1 trade.
And listen, we often criticize Flash Wolves for not making the play. You have to question whether the play was worth it. Sometimes that's why a team doesn't go for it, is because they can't do it perfectly. Yeah, they got first blood, they used every ultimate, they sent all 5 people, and they didn't get a lick of turret damage. Meanwhile, 957 has a larger CS lead in the top lane and got 80% of that turret down, which could probably end up being first turret. Not to mention a kill fell down on the backside. That was absolutely a one trade for Team WE, in my opinion.
You don't always make a play just because you can.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the summary of what happened there for Flash Wolves. Yeah, you got the kill, you got first blood, congratulations. Let's take another look at how it all played out, though.
And you can see here, the Shen is being forced under his tower already. He comes into the fight right from the get-go, but Betty initially takes tower aggro. He's forced out of the fight, and then GA's already there to respond, forcing Sword Art to lose his life. And then WE, they force Flash Wolves back. They're the ones that have to retreat, and it gives Team WE all this pressure in the enemy jungle and all across the map.
And Team WE, remember, Jat just said they got 80% of that first turret. They didn't even kill the thing, but they're up over 1,000 gold just because the team has those farm advantages like you're now seeing in the solo lanes, and because they've just done a better job passively building that economy.
Yeah, exactly. Ben's 600 gold up on Sword Art because the Relic Shield helps, and also the gold runes that he's going to be running. So he's done that every single game they play. Jonnet keeps pace, and also I think is one of the reasons Team WE's early game bot, they've been like, man, Mystic and Ben, they're supposed to smash everyone. Why aren't they? Well, because they're playing these passive lanes that are waiting on power spikes, and currently, even with that death, they're still even in CS.
Here we go, back to the chicken camp yet again, and they get everything. Karsa tries to walk in and throw the lance out to steal one, but it does not work. These two, again, staying on top of that spawn, denying that EXP, denying that gold from the Flash Wolves jungler.
Team WE also still have both their teleports up ready for use. It will be a Cloud Drake that's going to be the first one on the board, which means that neither team likely going to make that a high priority. But if it's a free objective, there's no reason why they can't try and look to make a play, especially when they want to continue the pressure down the bot side and get Mystic into that carry position.
Betty, 94 CS to the 90 of Mystic. We were keeping track of these guys' farm when we talked about them earlier. Both of them normally farm very well compared to their opponents. They're both doing well enough right now. Initiation coming out from the Flash Wolves, but Condi is here.
Oh.
Ben looking to make the play, shoving Betty back. Betty still managing to get himself away as Condi now finds his own ultimate down onto Sword Art, who has the Cosmic Radiance, but isn't going to use it this time. Mystic grabs the kill.
Yeah, Sword Art was flashless, so he knew he was dead regardless of whether or not he used Cosmic Radiance trying to save it. They might just round this up for another gank. They could still teleport 957 if they really wanted to. That's why that worked there. And a great sweeper by Karsa to block it.
Karsa not allowing that TP to go in. Very well done by these guys, preventing further damage coming through. But now the damage onto the turret is
Rumble,
the
look at
concern.
Rumble.
TP going to be used. Rumble coming down. They've got GA here as well. WE wants to make this push onto this turret. 5 men strong, but now
Maple
it's going to be 4
Ghosted. He's
coming
coming
in
in.
from the Flash Wolves. They want to make this one happen. MMD able to find the taunt onto GA underneath the turret. Almost able to grab the kill, but instead it's not going to work out today. Galio into the back line using the hero's escape, and Flash Wolves will hold the line.
Flash Wolves doing a good job of defending this early tower, but I don't know if it's enough.
MMD now forced to flash back.
really want
WE's assault will find success! Condi forces them back as GA goes in, tries to fire off yet another win, but will now be forced back without grabbing a kill. They'll take the turret though, and they'll do so happily.
So many intricacies in that fight that ultimately don't turn bloody, but they still get the first turret, which gives them a large edge. And Flash Wolves committed the resources to trying to stop it without being able to. So that's still a big win for Team WE in that sense. They did move everyone bottom lane, but they're the ones that got something out of it. Flash Wolves did not.
And this is just a staple WE move, utilizing the levels and the comp that they have to apply pressure around the map. They had the double teleport, they have the Galio, they have the Rumble ultimate, they have a team composition that is great at just forcing enemies away from towers and just sieging them down. They knew they had the early advantage, they found that early kill onto Sword Art, and they were not afraid to try and force that play.
And one thing the bottom lane skirmishes have told us, both from the dive that Flash was executed and the attempted dive that Team WE attempted, was a preview of what we're going to see later. It's going to be really hard for Mystic to stay alive, because we know that the Vladimir can come in with a Shen and a Taric and be nearly unstoppable. And we also know it's going to be pretty hard for Team WE to actually execute kills onto the Flash Wolves. They don't have that much engage, and these guys can run away with a lot of different tools. So that just makes it all the more important that Team WE is getting pressure on these turrets and objectives, because they need to make their gold lead overwhelmingly strong to push this game to victory.
We are starting to see item power spikes coming across from multiple people. WE trying to push further on to yet another tier 1 turret. Good denial there from Ben. Going to be stopping the Flash Wolves' attempted move on them. Now bringing Condi up here to continue this push.
Yeah, and they won the sensor race. They have a Hurricane and an Ardent Sensor, so they're power spiking right now. But Flash Wolves want to fight them.
Flash Wolves going to be using that TP to come in, start this one off. Ben in some danger. Condi looking to body block, trying to get him out of there if he can, but the taunt comes in and Carson's grabbing the kill. Now seeing if they're maybe able to find some damage onto Mystic, but he's the one dealing all the pain today. A couple more auto attacks might be able to do it, but now Mystic going to be jumped on by the Shen. Condi grabbing the kill onto Karsa. Galio comes in for the cavalry charge as Maple goes into the back line, going after Condi now as well. Evo Plague down, one more transfusion to grab the kill. What a bloodbath.
And how long's the fight gonna happen? 957 starting the bot lane. He's walked up this far.
Maple still defending this. 957 knows there's low health bars that he could mop up. GA and 957 want to take down this turret, potentially grab the kill onto Maple as well. Lots of damage coming out from these two AP solo laners. The winds come through, they don't find the mark. GA's gonna be taken out. He's gotta be careful, but he got the kill. 957 trying to get something here. He will find Betty. He may find MMD. But the Spirit's Refuge protects.
What a great fight from the Flash Wolves. They finally have the game going their way. You were just talking about this earlier, chat, how it's so difficult for WE to find those kills on the Flash Wolves, but it's just because Flash Wolves, all of them were there on the play beforehand. They were already ready to react to the play from Team WE. They find the successful fight, but they're still in the goal deficit.
Yeah, and I also feel like Team W was a little greedy there, knowing they didn't have their teleports up, and Mystic just thought he could take him on because he had his Hurricane. And he nearly did, but not quite enough thanks to all the defensive tools that Flash Wolves had. Watching this one more time, remember, the Monsoon from Janna is down. That's why Flash Wolves go for it.
And you can see Shen has already positioned because he's ready for the TP flank. You have the Taric ultimate to just buy time, preventing Mystic from doing damage, but then he does a great job of just unloading onto the Flash Wolves. You think at this point, maybe Team WE can turn it around, but he gets too low. He ends up dropping off the back of the fight, and that's only the first half of the fight, chat.
Yeah, Galio, oh so close to taking Sword Art down, and that costs them later on in the fight because they still want to 2v4 this with a full health Vladimir in the game. Yes, the turret's their priority, they get that, but then they think, yeah, we can kill him, and Flash Wolves think they can defend him. Sword Art, critical here, getting the heals and shields in on the multiple people. Betty has his ultimate back up, just keeping his distance from 957 for most of it, and the timing of the Spirit's Refuge right at the end. Keep himself alive from that overheated auto attack.
Well done from the Flash Wolves. Team fighting properly. They're still down 2,500 gold compared to Team WE, though 17.5 minutes into this game. And I think it is interesting to note that neither team has taken the first Drake. It is a Cloud Drake. It is of lesser value than normal. But you can see right there, Team WE gold differences group stage versus Misfits and versus TSM. Their two matches so far.
And this is the make or break moment in their game so far. And that's what we're seeing a lot of in this tournament. When both guys get their Ardent Sensors, when both tank lines start to come online, whoever gets that one little bit of a lead cuts through the enemy front line so much faster. Team WE have to play clean here. So much is yet to be decided for both teams.
WE daring Flash Wolves to come stop them from taking this Rift Herald. Flash Wolves wants to see if they can. Maple moving up forward, gonna have that large transfusion here. Barca actually stealing it away, well done. MMD steps up to secure the Rift Herald drop itself, taunts over the wall and gets himself to safety. Maple now trying to get away further. Hemo Plague thrown down onto multiple people, throws out the Tides of Blood as well. Stun comes out from Taric. The Flash Wolves disengage.
And we talked about the lack of engage from Team WE. Massive. That was 5v5 grouped up from Team WE. They were in a prime position to try and force the fight, but they don't go for it. They just wait for Flash Wolves to walk in, take the Rift Herald, walk out, and not lose any members.
Yeah, MMD just walked up to 5 people after ulting in and be like, well, I guess the team doesn't want to fight. I will turn around now, and I will be absolutely fine because WE has such lackluster engagement. I think they understand that, which is why they are so heavily forcing around turrets, Rift Herald, Drakes, daring Flash Wolves to fight him. That's the only way WE is going to get a fight, but they still haven't been converting those in a big way.
But they still have double TP available, like the flanking options are there for Team WE, yet they get to try and take advantage of them. Typically what you'd expect is Connie goes in, Shea follows up, and then you have the ulti from 957 to round things out. But so far, Condi's yet to truly pull the trigger, unless they're in a 3 versus 5, and it's Flash Wolves the ones that are trying to force the fights.
Flash Wolves now, they got the Rift Herald. We'll have to see how they want to actually use that. Team WE currently holding the turret control in this game, 2-0. That's pretty much where their gold lead is coming from at this point. That and the Janna gold that you were talking about earlier, Jat, with just how much more money they're putting into their support so you can get those supportive items coming out for his team. 1,600 gold of that lead is on the Janna compared to the Taric just because of that investment towards him.
Yeah.
Ardent Sensor up and running, very, very useful for that Twitch, but Mystic's going to need to be positioned very well.
And the remainder of the gold lead is just the fact that Team WE have 2 turrets over Flash Wolves, so I feel like this game is still very close. Both these teams really consistently butting heads, and I do feel like Flash Wolves are the ones that are, more often than not, the ones coming out ahead in the fight.
But remember, if you're a fan of Flash Wolves, their 2016 Worlds run, and a bit of what we saw from them here in 2017 against TSM, they could do well enough early. They could even take it a bit into the mid game, but it was closing those games that was problematic for the Flash Wolves. So you've always got to be concerned for this team as time goes on. Do they have that coherent element finally there that they can work together as 5 and make these plays happen? Right now, they're looking to pull that off mid lane, pushing up 4 strong, leaving Maple in the side lane to split push. Rift Herald will roar in there, nearly takes the turret down, but nearly's not enough. WE continuing to hold. Betty tries to put that last little bit of damage on it. Condi, now the one who may be in some danger. Galio ulti comes in. MMD going to be knocked back into the team, but that is a Shen. Pretty tanky, not really the one you want to be focusing on. Maple makes his way into the fray here. Nice equalizer choke point as the Taric ultimate is forced out, and Flash Wolves have to retreat now. Can WE find anything else? Maple going into the back line instead. Mystic may be in danger here. Ben going to be taken low. 957 grab the kill on Karsa as Condi falls to Betty. Now going to be finding himself in the middle of 4, but jumps over the wall with the flash to escape.
Such a clutch fight between both these teams. Team WE trying so desperately to force a fight, but they take too long. The Flash will sort out ultimate, just mitigating all of the damage from the Rumble ulti, and that's where Maple goes in. He tries to start something for the Flash Wolves, but it actually ends only in a 1-for-1 and a trade for jungle.
Yeah, both summoner spells used by Maple to get in onto Team WE, but when Mystic is just standing there with the Monsoon on him from the Janna and ripping off on the spray and pray, he's healing a lot, and they're not reducing it. So we're going to watch this fight one more time. You can see how difficult it is for Team WE to start a fight, because they want to. They see Vlad top lane. They think they can force a 5v4, but all right, we smacked the Shen into the team. Don't really want to engage. And they're almost intentionally walking into dangerous places so that Flash Wolves will engage on them, is what it feels like. Karsa's over the wall, thinking about it. The Taric ultimate is down, but Maple finds it. And now WE right back on the turret game.
Now WE saying, you took down our first turret, we're going to take down your first turret mid lane at least, seeing if they can push this one up. About 20% HP left on that. Team WE trying to build back up some of that objective lead. They will do so successfully. About 3,000 gold in their pockets ahead of Flash Wolves.
And my eyes just keep darting towards Betty. So one of the unsung hero for Flash Wolves, Captain Flowers. We were talking a little bit about him earlier on, how this game was going to be very much about the 280 carries and also how well Maple would have an impact on these fights. But when you look across the scoreline, 3-1-3 for Betty, he's just slowly been stacking up kills. He's working towards his 3rd item. And as this game progresses, I feel like that Tristana is going to be a huge factor in allowing Flash Wolves to win these fights.
I think it needs to be one of the main factors for them to win the game. But even with his damage percentage or his CS, they are sitting at 0-2 in this group, and it's because Betty hasn't been able to make those plays at the ends of the game. In the TSM matchup, it was Betty who got rocket jumped on while out of position, died, and lost the game. In the other game, it was the Jinx game where you just have to get that first kill to get the reset. The reset never came, and they got run over at the end of the game. So it's been a tough road for Betty. He's done a lot of good things, but in order to be the hero, you have to win.
The bright side for Betty, he finally gets his first kill, though. We didn't mention that at the start of the day.
It's a KDA now, boys.
It is now, in fact, a KDA. So good job for Betty. But let's see as we track through this game, because Maple is the other big star that you do have to keep your eyes on. Note, they are moving him off into a side lane much more regularly now, and he doesn't seem to find any trouble getting involved in these fights.
And Jat, you mentioned a little bit earlier about how now that the Ardent sensors are coming online and everything's sort of falling into place, these pieces are landing where they should. One big fight, one big momentum swing can determine the tempo for the rest of the game. And now that you're seeing those second items come online, you've got a Righteous Glory on your Galio, you've got a Zhonya's Hourglass on your Rumble. On the other side, Randuin's Omen completed on the Jarvan, while the Liandry's Torment for the Vlad. These are big purchases, big pickups that could really determine who wins these fights.
Exactly, and so much of it comes down to how safe Mystic can be. He's got these insane damage percentages as far as the tournament is concerned, and he's the one roaming around actually going for MMD.
MMD already had to use his flash here. Mystic looking to further chase this one down. Equalizer is enough, and Mystic grabs the kill for himself.
Ooh, MMD, he overextends a little bit in the bottom lane. He's not expecting the Mystic roam, and this is the thing you've always got to be careful of when it comes to Twitch. We saw a great example of it from Rekkles in their series versus Immortals, and we're seeing it once more. WE now moving Mystic around the map and trying to find these picks.
Here comes another one.
Now that they found the pick, though, what can they do with it? What can they get from it? It's one thing to pick off the enemy side laner, have that extra gold in your pocket, but what do you get afterwards? And for WE, it looks like they're going to be trying to get some vision control around this top side, maybe make a play on the Maple.
Continue to get vision around the objectives with which will be used to force fights in the mid and late game. They have so much anti-engage on this team with the Galio and the Janna. They also just want Flash Wolves to try and dive in on them, and they need to be able to stuff it to keep Mystic alive and win the fights, because the best way to get people in range for spray and pray is to have them come to you, but that's also the fastest way to a loss. So it's going to be these really razor's edge fights on whether or not Mystic stays alive.
And Sword Art's going to be pivotal as well, because his ultimate mitigates so much damage. If you use that spray and pray at the wrong time, a little too early, maybe a little too late, then that Cosmic Radiance is just going to deny all that AD carry damage, and then that long-range hyper carry turns into a low-range little rat that has to get past the front line in order to threaten those carries. So a lot of intricate things are going to come out as we progress into these fights later on into the game.
And you can see on your screen right now kind of who are those big power players in the game so far, who's making those big impacts in the team fights. It's Maple on the side of Flash Wolves. Nobody's really surprised about that one. And in similar non-surprising fashion, Mystic's Twitch, like you guys are talking about, if you can find those spray and prays, get those guys in range, that's where the damage is going to be coming from. Expected stars doing what we expected them to do, but so far we've got quite a close contest between these two teams. Still 3,500 gold apart. I've kind of been checking up on this gold lead as we've gone, and it's not shifted that much. It's been a slightly WE favored game this entire time around, and it's stagnated there.
And the 80 carries are pretty close in gold as well. Nearly 11,000 on Mystic and 10,500 on Betty. So those are the guys that this game is heavily about.
All right, as we go further and further too, more and more of the game will be about Baron, about who can control it, who can maybe sneak it away. We don't know for sure. Flash Wolves, we saw them get a cheeky Rift Herald steal earlier as Mystic goes stealthy, finds a really nice hit on the Sword Art, but won't look for any more.
Just looking across some of the itemization as well. Adaptive Helm, big picket for MMD, and that 1 versus 1 against 957, and there is a lot of magic damage coming out from Team WE as well. Also notice the Righteous Glory on top of GA. We talked about lack of engage. Well, having that extra bit of movement speed is definitely going to assist them, but if GA is off on a side lane, always trying to deal with Maple, how reliable is that Righteous Glory going to be in being able to start those fights?
You also got to look at the team fight effectiveness of this Shen. He's stacked Adaptive Helm with Mercury Treads to deal with the Rumble, but if he tries to go into a team fight and isn't sitting in his Spirit's Refuge to block the auto attacks, Twitch is going to kill him before
yeah,
crops.
for sure.
Zero armor whatsoever on this guy. Closest thing he's got to armor is a Dorian's shield that'll knock 5 AD off every Twitch auto attack. Not the most, but now WE might be getting themselves into a scrap. Cask not on the mark. Betty with Stand United, looking to put some autos into GA, can't quite find it. Now WE looking to mount the counterattack. Equalizer comes down in the choke point. MMD in some trouble here. Cosmic Radiance, Cask to save him.
I feel like
Wolves both walk away.
that Cosmic Radiance was far too early from Sword Art. The Equalizer had no threat to be followed up on. Condi had already expended Body Slam And if Flash Wolves wants to win this, they need to coordinate Cosmic Radiance with Vladimir's initiation. They don't have Cosmic Radiance anymore.
Here we go, taunt down onto the Shen. Mystic still has spray and pray, and now it's time to open up. Rat-a-tat-tat! Watch them all go down. Mystic now gonna be jumped on by MMD. They both fall, but it's a 3-for-1.
Massive team fight for Team WE. I was concerned because their main engaging Condi had fell apart, but they used the Fog of War to take advantage of Flash Wolves, who got a little bit too close. They took the bait, and WE, they immediately go for the punish.
Yeah, gonna be a little bit of a slow Baron, but they got enough with Rumble, Galio, and the Gragas. Getting some percent health damage into that. This could be the fight that breaks the game open.
WE now getting the Baron. This is going to feel great for these guys. It's going to give them so much ability to push and control the map and further build this lead. You can see just by the current state of the turrets, they were able to break the outer ring, but they couldn't find anything else beyond that. Baron is the perfect way to fix that.
And this is the Fog of War we were talking about. Carson, he just wants to check it with his with his E, but he ends up getting caught out of position. Xie with the flash taunt. Now one of the frontliners is down, and that allows Mystic to open up. He gets knocked back by Betty, making it even harder for Maple to dive onto the backline. And even though Mystic still loses his life, the damage was already done. Flash Wolves had fallen apart, and it ended in a 4-for-1 going in the favor of WE.
And we also have to remember that the Cosmic Radiance was burned by the Equalizer. Imagine that fight if Maple and Betty can dive in and have 2.5 seconds of invulnerability to kill Mystic, and then all they got to deal with is a Rumble and a bunch of tanks. So could still be different. This goal lead puts WE in a good position. Still just want to see better usage out of Sword Art's ultimate.
Forcing Maple back like that is a good sign for these guys. Going to give them the opportunity to continue pushing up, moving through the jungle. Notice how they're laying down the vision as they go as well. Damage dealt to champions in the last team fight, nearly 5,400 from Mystic's Twitch. Any two people you put together on Flash Wolves don't even equal that. Xie dashing himself forward with the Justice Punch to zone away any defenders as WE breaks down the mid lane. Tier 2 continues the push, 4 men strong, up into the base of the Flash Wolves.
And they should continue to force this. They are stronger in the 5v5. The Ghost is down on Maple as well, so just keep walking up to turrets, push Galio forward, and dare Flash Wolves to fight you.
That was your tank, by the way, if you're Flash Wolves and walk up to that wall and he gets auto-attack for 2 seconds.
He's got a Wands Mail now, though, Flowers. He should be able to mitigate a little bit of the 4-item twitch down on the end.
Warden's Mail up against Infinity Edge, Runeance Hurricane, Static Shiv, and some other bits and pieces. Now, can WE actually break this base open? Time will tell, and it's going to tell right now. Cosmic Radiance comes down, but it's not doing a lot. They're not taking any damage, but the cast finds Karsa. The Equalizer brought down into the back line, zoning Betty away. Maple still looking, but not finding, as WE will force their way into the base, seeing if they can find any more Flash Wolf lives. The answer is yes. 3 are down, and it's a double kill for the top laner.
That's going to do it, Flowers. Mystic would not die as Flash Wolves tried to dive, and not a coordinated play by Flash Wolves in that dive, but WE in full control, go for the Nexus.
MMD's gone, Betty's gone. Flash Wolves' chances of a win in week number 1 are gone, and WE will find their victory.
The crowd is in elation as the LPL representatives, WE, get themselves such a solid win against the Flash Wolves. Such fantastic team fighting towards the later game. Good early objective control. We talked about how around the 18 minutes, pretty kind of swings or swims. They find that great play. They found it. Initially, it kind of looked like disaster up in the top lane. They looked like they lost the fight, but they were still getting those turrets. They were still holding onto that gold lead, and they just continued to win fight after fight against the Flash Wolves.
And this puts Team WE in a
ban from Misfits. So far, Doublelift 2-0. He is the second highest damage per minute dealer at this tournament at 801. And Misfits are saying, you know what? I think we've had enough of Doublelift getting Tristan.
Well, along with that, the Misfits are going to ban out Lulu and Jarvan, so taking a couple of those big power picks off the table. And TSM's response is going to be to ban out Rakan, as well as AD carries Varus and Kalista.
And I feel like if Janna isn't picked here, it's a big mistake. Based on the supports that Janna would be picked against, and also just how strong it's been at this tournament.
But you've got to remember that Misfits have had a 100% ban rate of the Blitzcrank. It is Ignar's most popular. Never mind. I had this whole line about
Are you
Blitzcrank
trying to
being
contest
available.
Janna in Ardent Sensor meta, Venius? What are you doing?
Misfits, they loved picking the Blitzcrank into champions like the Janna because of the pick potential and how you can be super aggressive in lane, and it fits into Ignar's style, but it seems that Ardent Sensor has come
You
out
got
on top
to save
this time.
at least. That's
At least.
It's basically the same as picking Blitzcrank. You talked about it.
All right, TSM responds to the Janna. They grab the Kog'Maw for double lift, and they pick up that Sejuani, which has had a lot of popularity of its own. Instant response from Misfits, grabbing the Gragas for the jungle.
Yeah, gonna have to see what they pair that Kog'Maw with. Taric definitely another one of those Ardent Sensor users. Morgana could be one of them. Or they could be Rebels, Renegades, pick Braum,
And
which
not
they've
do
done
a
with...
Sensor.
Yeah, I think that'll be a mistake. But
Karma
from
as
here,
well.
Misfits pretty much just picked meta so far. A pretty high priority on the Gragas, but that's because they could get choked out on junglers, and if they want a strong front line, the Gragas is what's left after the Sejuani pick. And also, that's another Sensor. Don't know how I forgot about Nami.
That uses Ardent Sensor as well, and I really want to keep an eye on how these last bans and picks go, because remember the Misfits was one of the teams that debuted the Trundle. You're up against Sejuani, who gets just an absolutely ludicrous amount of free defensive stats, and if you can ult her while that's still active, you steal a portion of those as the Trundle. Incredibly effective.
The thing is, if you're TSM, I think you're quite happy to blind pick the mid right now. Things like Corki and Syndra have been very effective for Bjergsen. He is 10-1 on the champion during the regular season of NALCS. It's a very big comfort pick for him, and I feel like the TSM are happy to just either go for that or just grab themselves the Corki and say, you know what, we don't care what you've got.
Let's see how they end up dealing with it. Cassiopeia banned out by TSM means they are thinking about that mid lane. Misfits taking Gnar out of the pool as well. Thinking about those solo lanes. It's pretty much all you've got to think about between these two teams. Junglers and bot lanes locked in.
The thing is, if Misfits just choose to ban away things like the Gnar, maybe the Camille, they're basically taking strong alternative carries off, so they can just blind pick the Trundle. Then you're forcing TSM, do you then flap another carry under your belt, or are you going to force yourself into a tank and a potential losing matchup?
TSM not worried about the Trundle themselves. They do ban Orianna instead, focusing strictly on the mid lane in the second phase of the bans.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting choice for Misfits if they keep banning out quote-unquote carry top laners, because they have shown that they're willing to just let Cho'Gath through. Interestingly enough, TSM did that as well. There's a lower Cho'Gath priority, which is often picked at that exact slot for TSM where they'd have a choice right now. We're going to have to see if they go for it. They know with a relative level of certainty that if they do pick Cho, they're going to get a Trundle on the other side. And we know that Trundle has some amazing matchups up against the Cho and the Sejuani.
The big thing here is that Galio is available. TSM could look to just prioritize it, given that the Lucian has now just been banned away from Misfits. We know that they have been playing it, but it seems like they're just going to stick with Comfort.
There's that pick that you guys called out, that 10-1 record. Bjergsen has done so much work on this champion against so many opponents. It's one that he falls back to time and time again, and one that he has proven himself on equally as many times. He'll be taking that into battle here again today.
But now I just feel like Misfits could just go for the Galio and Trundle themselves if they so wanted. Oh, but Power of Evil.
Okay.
Wow.
Time for 1-3-1, flanking, trying to get on top of the Syndra. That's what Misfits is going for, and not late game. They're actually ceding the late game over to TSM, putting themselves on a clock. Definitely bold by Misfits.
Because we know TSM does so well in those big late game team fights. That's what we saw them be able to succeed in against the Flash Wolves when they fell behind early. You're saying to TSM, we know your game, we know your element, we think we can beat you with our strategy first.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're going with Renekton against the Shen to help bridge that early game to late game. I think that's a really smart adaptation by Parth to pull that out in this moment. But also, I think what Misfits is doing is potentially their best strategy towards victory here, only because I look at what TSM has done at international events and in the first 2 games of group stage, and that's nothing in the first 20 minutes. They have been 0 kills to 4 against Flash Wolves and 0 kills to 3 against Team WE before turning that around. So you want to be able to snowball that advantage and never let them get off the ground.
And at the very beginning of the year, when Misfits joined the European LCS, along with Kakao, it was strategies like this, with the LeBlanc in the middle lane, that allowed them to get such an impressive record during the spring split. It was because Power of Evil, with with his pressure in the mid and his ability to roam, specifically down to the bottom lane, that they were able to get so many of their wins. And now they're going to throw back to that strategy and look to make early plays down the bottom side of the map.
And when we heard from Doublelift, who was he talking about? He was talking about the mid laner, he was talking about the support player. He said we need to keep eyes on mid, which is exactly in line with what you'll have to do against Power of Evil with this LeBlanc.
With those picks, LeBlanc versus Syndra, eyes are going to be on mid.
Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. EU versus NA. Here we go yet again, gentlemen. Two teams squaring off, the best of the West.
Yeah, we got 2 NA versus EU groups to see those matchups. We're going to get 4 of them in the group stages here at Worlds. Fnatic versus Immortals was a doozy.
Yeah, to say the least.
Between the two of them, we'll see if this one can deliver in the same way.
And we talked a lot about it yesterday, but for Misfits, this is their first time at an international event. A lot of rookies on the team, and to go up against TSM, I had the opportunity to chat with them. They're excited. They love this opportunity. TSM is such a fabled name within the entire League of Legends universe that it's chanted everywhere. No matter where you go, you'll always hear
Even in
those
playing
chants.
stage when there wasn't TSM.
Exactly.
They chant TSM.
And all Maxler wants to do is shut those chants up. He wants to be the guy to take down TSM and make a name for himself across the world.
Maxler absolutely willing to engage in that banter as well, talking about how they can beat TSM tomorrow faster after they're able to pick up that win against Flash Wolves. And Power of Evil has beaten TSM before, speaking of taking down the brand in stunning fashion several years ago at IEM.
Back with the Twisted Fate Jungle, I believe, was the pick. And I feel like Bjergsen learned from that. Always going to show respect towards what the European squads can bring out. But now let's see, we're jumping into game. We talked about the early game power that Misfits have with the LeBlanc. The big thing you have to respect on TSM side is that Renekton in the top lane, because if they went for the Cho, then you're looking at actually a pushing lane in the top going in favor of Misfits, and in the bottom lane, I'd argue it's slightly in favor of Doublelift. He's taking a lot of damage right now.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't have to burn a summoner spell, because here's the thing, he started Call and health potions up against the Doran's Blade. He's also got the sustain of Nami. So that's the big reason he was trying to take an even health trade there. Even a slightly less than even health trade can be absorbed back. So just trying to get some cheeky poke in there.
Nami's ebb and flow should do plenty to keep him topped off as this lane goes on. But yeah, you really don't want to be losing 2/3 of your health at the start if you can help it. He does get plenty of damage down onto Hans Sama in return, like you mentioned. This bottom lane, we were talking about the low-key flame, saying, oh yeah, Ignar tried out, but Biofrost beat him. Let's see if Biofrost can beat him here where it really matters.
The big thing you've got to be careful of, though, if you're a Nami, is your mana consumption, because it's a pretty expensive skill at level 1, and your mana pool is not the highest. So if you use it aggressively, it means that you don't have that same level of sustain consistently throughout the laning phase.
And Doublelift is going in a very dangerous line right here. He started Cull, he took a bunch of poke early. He hasn't been able to sustain back up. You do this as a strategy because you're not expecting to get all in by a Janna lane, but you got to be careful about the feathers. You can't get rooted by that, because that's when you could potentially get all in.
Svenskeren thinking about moving towards this bottom lane, but right as he comes down, Ignar drops off the ward into the Tri-Brush. It means Sven's not going to get a lot accomplished down here. Bjergsen and Power of Evil pretty even in mid.
So we're talking a lot about the bottom lane, but we've got to talk about the mid lane, as largely because Power of Evil, he's running Ignite, gentlemen. We've seen a lot of TP LeBlancs coming out, largely so that she can move off to a side lane. But Power of Evil, he wants to try and prove something here. He wants to deliver a message to Bjergsen, going for that very aggressive summoner spell.
Well, he'll have his work cut out for him doing it. You can see on your side of your screen there, 10-1, like you mentioned earlier, Vedius, as Syndra during the NALCS this past summer, as well as having a +16 CSD at 15 minutes. So not only is he killing his opponents, he's farming well.
Yeah, he has been pretty remarkable on this pick, and the NALCS as a region has played so heavily around mid lane, and they're very used to that game style. The jungle proximities around mid lane have been higher than most other regions, and even at Rift Rivals, that was the lane in which they pulled the head of the European teams in more cases than not. So Power of Evil knows that. He's trying to match that with the Ignite LeBlanc, but it's very difficult. And that's a nice sneak around the vision, but there's plenty more to catch Hauntzer.
Yeah, that was really well done. Now, if he would have walked into that brush on the side there and managed to come all the way around through the vision, that would have been insane. But instead, he is going to be spotted out. Power of Evil not too worried about this one. It's so difficult to gank a LeBlanc anyway. But it was a good try. TSM.
And now Svenskeren has been spotted out in the jungle of Misfits. Hansama was supposed to go back, and now Power of Evil's in trouble. Svenskeren
trying to get himself out here now. Bjergsen providing the covering fire, and it's Power of Evil who has to expend his flash. Heal going to be used bottom lane by the side of TSM as Hans Sama and Ignar continuing to try to put the damage onto these guys, but they're significantly far behind in farm.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're towing a very dangerous line to that bottom lane, but so far, it's working. The Cull is going to be more valuable than that Doran's Blade later. They've already forced Hans Sama back to base once to buy boots, and they traded heals. It's just a matter of, will Misfits break that bottom lane open, which they're going to try to do here. They poked them for so long, and they know the heal is down.
TSM low on health, no heal available. Shield coming down onto Doublelift, but Max Lore bops them. They walk away with the first blood.
Misfits, we talked about how back in the day when they first joined the European LCS liked to play around bot lane, and Doublelift plays a little too greedy. He sticks around too long, he takes too much harassment. No vision through the river as well gives Misfits an easy avenue to get that first blood.
Yeah, just a ton of greed sticking around for too long there and taking too many bad trades. Also not having the jungler cover when that happens. They fall to what looked like an easy to execute gank by Max. Or literally just hit him with the flash and then autoed him in the face. So overly greedy by Doublelift. It's what leads up to this gank that TSM needs to criticize for.
And you can see here, good knockup from Ignar as well. There's very little Doublelift can do. He's the Baron, but there's no need to flash. You're just wasting some of the spells. TP even comes in from Alphari. Arguably not necessary, but it keeps the minion wave alive long enough to guarantee.
I gotta say, really nice play there by Maxor watching it again. Flashing to the instant body slam to make it around the minion wave and actually get that CC so Doublelift couldn't flash the body slam to potentially get away.
He's here to send a message, Jed. He's here to prove that he is a world-class jungler, and he's off to a good start in this vision.
Hans Sama and Doublelift more trading, but Hans Sama losing this one decidedly. Biofrost shows up there, 34 to 33 CS. So after Doublelift goes down, that helps equalize this a bit. TSM gonna really have to respect their opponents here. Misfits just now cresting the 10,000 gold mark, nearly 1,000 up compared to TSM.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about at the end of the draft phase. Misfits drafting early game, because that is also where TSM has been pretty weak. At this year's World Championship, they've now been first blooded in all 3 games.
Bubble not finding its way onto Hans Sama there. Bjergsen responding to Power of Evil, jumping forward by throwing the ultimate back at him. That Unleashed Power will take off about 2/3 of his health. Power of Evil with the Corrupting Potion, but it's out of charges, so it'll be hard to recover as Hans Sama needs a lot of damage here in the bottom lane yet again. Doublelift runs out of Bio-Arcane Barrage time right as Hans walks up.
And look at the mana on Biofrost. It's going to be harder for him to continue that kind of level of trading as Hans Sama and Ignar continue the push. Also keep your eyes on the vision towards the bottom lane. Alphari is now level 6. He's gone for a very early Bramble Vest to make the laning phase a little bit easier, but he's actually ahead of Hauntzer in terms of the 1v1.
Yeah, could be coming. Nice dodge.
Oh, Max Lore trying to knock Svenskeren back. Sven is low. He's going to be taken down here. Svenskeren popped by Power of Evil.
TSM, they try to go for an early skirmish in the river, and they get very quickly punished by that of Misfits.
Yeah, you have to respect the Shen when it's level 6. Making those invades becomes more and more dangerous. Invading without a flash, he wanted the vision, shouldn't have incurred the risk.
And now Maxwell, he's on his way bot as well.
Here
you
we
can
go.
see Hans Sama and Ignar already a big trade.
Oh, TSM's going to fall into the same trap twice. Max Lore coming down, moving around, and Hans Sama takes the kill on the Doublelift.
Here comes
as
Power of Evil.
going to be taken down next. Yup, 4-0 for Misfits.
Such a classic Misfits play. We haven't seen this from them in so long, but it feels like only yesterday that they're able to pull this one off. 4-0 in favor of Misfits, and they're off to a fantastic start.
Exactly, you gotta credit that bottom lane for getting the poke low enough for those dives to work. Doublelift has less than 100 health for a lot of those dives when they're coming through. They're playing that bottom lane. Too greedy, getting poked too hard. Hans Sama and Ignar doing a great job to set up these dives.
So
let's take another look.
This is the play that we saw earlier on. Maxwell, he has vision of this, and Sven goes in. Remember, he has no flash. Yesterday, TSM, they respected the Shen from Team WWE perfectly, but today they do not. Sven has no flash. Power of Evil is very quickly able to roam around, and I feel like, this is the play down in the bottom lane.
Exactly. Yes, they're trading poke, but Ignar also is level 6, so he can just ult to heal Hans Sama up. It's a beautiful bait. Barrier plus ultimate. Don't even use the summer spell here. And then Maxor doesn't even touch Doublelift, doesn't want to take another kill. Power of Evil comes in as well on the end. The kill distribution very strong at the end as well.
I really like watching Maxlore wait for those 2 caster autos to hit the Kog'Maw, making sure maybe they'll get the kill, maybe they won't, but he wanted to give that kill over if at all possible. It works out for him.
Yeah, and watching the very start of that sequence again, the fact that Svenskeren moved forward onto a level 6 Gragas when he himself was level 5 and the Shen was in a game is just strictly over-aggression.
And we've seen mistakes in the early game in every single TSM game so far, specifically from Svenskeren. He's been caught out, he's been killed for free. It's one area where this team needs to shore up that weakness.
Yeah, but what we haven't seen yet in the group stage is mistakes from Doublelift in the early game as well. So when you're adding them together, the deficit could be too large to overcome.
And this is going to give a very early Infernal Drake over to Misfits. We talked about how it was crucial for them to get this early lead. Would this group of rookies be able to do it against the powerhouse that is TSM? And so far they've identified the weakness of TSM and they've been able to successfully get this early advantage.
We talk about TSM playing late. We talk about them being good at team fights. Well, one way to deal with that a bit is to get yourself an Infernal Drake. Have some more late game team fight damage. As Bjergsen moves himself topside, looking to maybe make a play onto Alphari here, but Alphari knows something's up.
His spidey sense is tingling. He feels a roam coming on. Good communication there from Misfits to recognize Bjergsen was gone. It will result in a lot of chip damage going down onto this top tower, but this is kind of what you expect in the matchup. The fact that Alphari is at this deficit, but has still been able to contribute to the bottom lane of Misfits is still a positive net for gain for Misfits.
And we got to track 2 things that are both working towards the same goal. Misfits' ability to snowball and TSM's ability to equalize and bridge towards that late game, because the LeBlanc Shen falls off in a big way when the Kog'Maw can get some magic resist and the rest of the TSM team can scale up. So it's on Misfits to push the tempo in this game.
And the one thing you can definitely praise Misfits for during their regular season is that they've been in these kind of deficits. They're used to playing, I wouldn't say used to playing from behind, but they know how to play from behind. This is not uncommon for them. You see a bit of trading down the bottom lane.
Sama is going to be taking some auto attacks yet again. Bubble finds him though. That's going to be big. There's your tidal wave. Stand United comes in. The Shen ultimate coming in clutch to keep that 80 carry alive.
Big mistake there from Hans Sama, which Doublelift is very quick to punish him on. That's going to force the ultimate out from Alphari, and now the playmaking potential of Misfits going to be heavily mitigated for the next few minutes.
And I'm very surprised that Misfits used the Janna ultimate, the Shen ultimate, before just the Xayah using the ultimate to go untargetable and walk backwards. That would have potentially been a much easier way out, because the Nami Kog'Maw all-in isn't necessarily that scary, but they also now have Sejuani. Knowing they burned those ultimates down, it might go for it.
Let's see if Svenskeren can find something here. The ward
Not
goes over the
spotted
wall.
by that.
He's not spotted by it. The control ward's going to go ahead and silence it. Hauntzer, meanwhile, top side, putting plenty of damage into that turret. Gets turret first blood for the side of TSM, which takes the gold back to very close to even. Maxlore throws a ward down to see if Svenskeren's hanging around this area. Does find him out.
Look at that solo lane CS, 121 to 94, 118 to 89. The roaming is paying a cost, taking a toll for Misfits right now. I think TSM was winning those lanes slightly before the roams, but once you leave a lane that's down a little bit, it costs you huge. 2-0 on LeBlanc, but 4,300 gold on both sides.
It's dead even. Bjergsen is up 4 gold. Well, he was. Then it changed. But you know what I mean. He was very, very close in the gold. It was almost identical. Now with the game only 400 gold apart, Misfits is looking to return to the scene of the crime for a 3rd time, but TSM is finally wise to it.
And this is why we talked about the onus being on Misfits to continue this early game play. They need to keep the pressure on, otherwise eventually Misfits will get to a point where they can challenge Misfits in these fights. They do have the advantage of knowing how to play in these late game. And Misfits, the one thing we have seen from them is that they can get pretty slow in their playstyle once they get into the late game. That matchup against Flash Wolves, it took them 40+ minutes to be able to finally close that one out.
One thing I want to comment on that I find very interesting, Bjergsen going for the Mercury Treads before anything else in this mid lane matchup against Power of Evil. We've kind of criticized the TSM bot lane for not showing enough respect towards what Misfits can do. Bjergsen saying, all right, we can't have 2 lanes doing that. I'm going to be very respectful of this LeBlanc.
He still remembers the jungle TF. He's like, I refuse to get CC'd again by those random other players, and I think that he is admirably showing a fair amount of respect to Parry, but also on that LeBlanc, as you rightly said, and the Ignite in the mid lane as well, so yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Got to be concerned about that kill pressure as TSM moves the bottom lane towards the top side, considering the turrets have been traded 1-for-1 so far. You're also now starting to see those first item power spikes come online. You got a Cleaver on your Renekton. Gunblade for LeBlanc is a huge one. Morello Namakan on Syndra, as well as the Rage Blade for Doublelift, despite the first couple of deaths slowing him down.
And that is a very big spike for Doublelift as well. Even though he has been put in an early deficit, that Kog'Maw is still going to hurt. One big misplay from Hanzama could cost him dearly, as we see both teams making their way towards the TSM bot lane again.
Who's going to strike first? Misfits wanted to find this setup yet again, but TSM sending Svenskeren up here, thinking about what's happened so far, smelling something funny here again.
Yeah, TSM much more prepared for that one. At this point, the gold difference is pretty much just Svenskeren versus Maxlorn. Looking at that top side, this is Hauntzer once again having that huge performance. Look at that CSD at 15. He was a big split push threat, but now Bjergsen getting another Cinder ult out. It's got to get away now.
Bjergsen forced to flash over the wall to get away from that when the Shen ultimate comes in again for Misfits. They're making good use out of this.
Going towards Rift Herald as well, knowing they have Bjergsen's flash and ultimate down. Seems like a pretty safe play that could maybe break open the base a little bit.
Well, Misfits working on that Rift Herald. TSM doesn't really seem too keen on stopping them, so this should go away pretty much free. One more hit onto Shelly's eyeball, and there we go. And you can see on the bottom of your screen there, Misfits in their win versus Flash Wolves. Even though they were ahead the entirety of the game, they never gave up a kill. They didn't control these lesser objectives in Dragons and Rift Heralds. But this game, they've got the one Dragon so far, they've got the one Rift Herald so far, they're making up for that.
This is a very common trend that we do see from many European teams in terms of their low priority on objectives like the Dragon. That changes a little bit when an Infernal's on the board, but aside from that, they're more focused on trying to get these towers. But Misfits, even though when they had the lead, they did not prioritize it. This time around, they are the ones with the early game pressure. They're the ones that have the lane advantages, and so they're utilizing that to get these early objectives where they can.
And I do wonder if we're going to see a priority around this Infernal Drake. You can see Bjergsen's hoping to go on posture a little bit. Power of Evil snuck into this brush. This is a very good sneak.
Bjergsen doesn't have his flash. Remember, he had to use it last time, and now he's going to be jumped on the damage coming through, but Biofrost keeps him alive! Somehow! Bjergsen walks away!
Fantastic play from Bjergsen. This is why he's known as a legend, getting an amazing outplay, getting 2 kills onto the 2 members of Misfits, and now their eyes are on the Dragon.
That is such a huge breaking point in this game as Misfits is trying to snowball through, trying to get the double Infernal, the Drakes you dream of when you're playing an early game composition. They go for the kill, which is the right play to make. You want to kill Bjergsen to stop that Infernal Drake, but it backfires.
Beautiful play from TSM, and I'm just so impressed with how quickly they responded as well. The key thing here to note is the chains from Power of Evil. He uses this double dash, cannot land the chains as of yet. The minions are in the way. Maxwell comes a little too late, and that gives Bjergsen all the time in the world to get the outplay going. The bubble from Biofrost, the TP from Hauntzer, the rest of TSM collapse, and they keep their mid laner alive.
One chain, the difference in that kill turning around. Misfits had played over an hour's worth of game time without dying until that play turned around. And now, TSM has the lead.
TSM getting the gold lead from that one, albeit ever so slightly. That Infernal Drake tie-up is huge. And look at the top left part of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. Infernal number 3 will be the next neutral objective to spawn in that bottom part of the map. Just a few minutes from now, these teams are going to have plenty to fight over. The Misfits, they got to be reeling after that one. Such a heartbreaker to get Bjergsen that close, only to not find the kill.
Misfits, they really wanted to try and snowball it. Bjergsen had no flash. As you said, Chad, it was the correct play, but the execution just fell apart for Misfits. And now the pressure's on because they're going to have to try and find more of these picks, but Hauntzer is very strong. TSM still have a lot of control over the map. Even though their vision has been pushed back slightly, Misfits doing their best to control this river. Yeah,
they still have the Rift Herald on Ignar as well, so they can use that to break a turret. Oftentimes, you see the use of Rift Herald being mid because that's such an important lane to crack, but it's very tempting to use that top lane knowing that one charge would kill the turret.
Svenskeren clears out the control ward as Misfits try to stop him, dashes himself away. Cask is not exactly on the mark, but Maxwell wanted to go for the try anyway. Had PoE right next to him in case they did have that Cask angle properly. But now Misfits have got to find some way to take control in this game yet again. We've mentioned the compositional difference. They've also got that stylistic difference where this team doesn't normally succeed in late game situations up against TSM, who does.
And I think a lot of it has to be on Hans Sama's shoulders. Gets the turret gold there, got the turret gold bottom lane, has the 1 kill. He's 1,200 gold ahead of Doublelift, and he's got a Janna backing him up. So really big emphasis on him being in the right position, because if he gets caught by a Syndra ultimate, the extended damage in the fights is gone.
And I think it all comes down to that, the Syndra ultimate from Bjergsen. I feel like he's already been such a staple part of the team. In game 1, he said himself he felt he didn't have a massive impact in their game versus Flash Wolves, but moving into the rest of the group stages, especially yesterday when they went up against Team WWE, he felt like he had so much more, getting that solo kill down on Shea, and now getting this very significant outplay.
All right, they unleashed Shelly mid lane onto the TSM tier 1. Bjergsen had to use his ultimate earlier, kind of just as a get-off-me mechanism when they were trying to find yet another kill onto him. So they don't have that damage potential should a fight break out. TSM not wanting to fight without that one. Then Scarron just wants to clear out this blue buff, get it ready for Bjerg.
Breaking the mid lane turret is so insanely important for 1-3-1 compositions. It opens up the entire map because it gives you more avenues with which you can invade the jungle to get wards and ultimately find picks. So it is so important that Misfits focus enough on this mid lane to get it.
Power of Evil starting up the split push game now. Going to be sitting up there in the top side. Vedius, you mentioned this Ignite at the start of the game, and I want to go back to it because it means when he is split pushing, when he is in that side lane, he won't have the teleport to make it into fights. It means Misfits will have to play the split push game very correctly and very cleanly.
But what they have done is, as you rightly identified, Flyers, he's already got the push up in the top lane, and now they're trying to get a bit of vision down into TSM's jungle and use the power of LeBlanc to find these picks. Like this ward here from Bjergsen, he does take a fair amount of damage from Power of Evil. Now hitting that level 13 mark. We'll have 2 points in the ultimate. We'll have 2 skills max as well. When you combine that with the Gunblade, that's a lot of burst.
Flash away from Hans Sama, recognized he was in some serious trouble there as Haunter and Sven charge after him.
You know, Jack, you mentioned that we're going to be looking at Hans Sama to be one of the big carries, but he's now made 2 big mistakes that he really should be making at this kind of level, because in the bottom lane we saw him go for a very bad trade against Doublelift, forcing ultis out of Alphari and Ignar, and right there, why is he taking that path behind, through the jungle? Like, it's very easy for TSM to very quickly punish.
Exactly, and that lowers the amount of pressure they can apply in the mid lane, which is so important for them to open up. So he has to play a cleaner game. He's gotten the advantage with the help of his team and also some great harass on a Doublelift early, but he's got to pay it forward to the rest of the team. You can see Doublelift now, he's got his wits about him, is building defensive as possible. Ninja Tabi on his way to a wits end.
But will we see another Randuin? Will we see another Randuin?
Like, can you imagine a wits end Randuin's Rageblade Cog? I think it would still do a lot of damage.
Yep.
Need the gold to get those items, though. That's the big thing.
Right, and Doublelift not exactly feeling the gold right now. I want to check in on that farm that you mentioned earlier, Jat, because the solo lanes for TSM still about 25, 30, almost even 40 ahead for Bjergsen right now, but it's Doublelift who's falling behind nearly 40 himself. The story kind of being told as the solo lanes have sacrificed themselves for bottom lane control. Haunter now going to be jumped on that 3 versus 1. Not a situation that even a big old Croc can get himself out of. Tries to, but can't quite do it. He will make Shen use the standing knife.
Yeah, trades his flash for a Shen ultimate, really trying to pull off those quick Renekton combos that are possible with the Titanic Hydra to threaten that kill. I don't think he actually would have killed, but the gusto with which he went for it forced the Shen ultimate.
And I do love the vision that we're seeing from Misfits. They've done a great job of pushing their vision line deeper into the side of TSM's map, and you can really see it in the bottom side of TSM's jungle. They had this entire area littered with blue wards and made sure that TSM could see nothing. Haunter had this false sense of security. He overextends ever so slightly, and now the dragon is spawning just in time for Misfits to start it up. And look at the positioning of TSM.
They're going for Baron.
TSM willing to call the bluff on this one, say, all right, you want to get 2 Infernal Drakes? We're going for this one. TP going to be used here as well, but Misfits already have the Drake. TSM is not doing this exceptionally quickly right now. Doublelift over the wall with the Bioarcane Barrage. Baron still dropping rapidly. Misfits not aware, and TSM, 23-minute Baron.
What was that play? TSM, they just walked straight towards the Baron. We were praising Misfits for their vision, but they had no vision around that Baron area. 23 minutes into the game, TSM make the right call, and they get a huge advantage over their opposition.
Absolutely. TSM sees the Infernal Drake, knows that's going to be a juicy pinata to go chase after. But the Baron is the real objective, especially when playing against Misfits, who we just talked about, usually focuses Baron over the Drake. And overcorrection, they still have the Kog'Maw to burst that down, and that is a huge moment in this game.
Is that not the same sort of a trap that we saw Immortals fall into against Longzhu? When they were ahead, they were going for the Drake, everything was going their way. Longzhu says, okay, it's an early 20 minutes something into the game, pull the trigger, go for Baron, they get it, and that was the turning point in that game. Now in this game, we'll have to see if TSM can make a lot of moves based on that. Right now, we have found ourselves into a pause, hopefully only a minor issue, and we can get back into game ASAP.
I'm flabbergasted, boys. I cannot believe the Misfits would just leave that exposed. They're usually a team that around the 20-minute mark just have so much great control around the Baron area. This is something that during the European LCS regular season, they would use to start off a lot of their fights. They weren't that confident in just trying to fight in the middle lane, in the enemy jungle. It was always around that Baron area. They let the vision drop for a little bit, and TSM, they just make an amazing call. Just like, hey guys, we can go. Let's rush it down. We're going to get this objective. And it's going to buy them a load of time, because remember, this is a team where their composition is going to have so much more power in the late game. That Kog'Maw is still ramping up. Yes, the Renekton, you could argue that he falls off, but in terms of teamfight value compared to a Shen, I would say that he adds a lot more.
Yeah, and I think, thinking about how the Baron sneak happened, right? Because Baron sneaks this early in the game require two parties to actually cooperate. One team has to be willing to make the call that they think they can sneak it, and the other team either has to not have vision or be sleeping a little bit and not check, because that thing does not go down quickly. So I think some of this could be attributed to the team compositions, and some of it can be contributed to Worlds experience. We mentioned how Misfits is so new on the World stage, and Baron sneaks happen all the time in these high-pressure moments when you're so focused on other things. You're talking about playing against TSM at Worlds. If they beat them, they can go 2-1. They can tie for first in the group. Double Infernal Drake. They can get a second one. All those things compounded together make it more likely for them to make an abnormal play, and TSM call them on it, get the Baron.
Just want to update everybody on the state of the pause and exactly what we're investigating here. It appears Power of Evil is calling attention to an issue where his LeBlanc clone killed the blue buff. The buff then did not transfer over to LeBlanc herself. So that's what we're taking a look at to see exactly how that all played out and whether or not there's some issue there.
Yeah, that's...
And right now,
an unfortunate
in the meantime...
move.
Let's go ahead and take another look at exactly what you were talking about, Jat, with how that play happened, how everything worked out with TSM being able to grab the Baron. I believe we have the replay ready that we can take a look at to see the trade.
So this is where they're able to get the kill onto Hauntzer. Bear in mind, there is no vision down towards the bottom side. Hauntzer doesn't realize this is happening, and Misfits get a good collapse. Hauntzer, he tries his best to get the kill. He gets a surprising amount of burst that Power of Evil was not expecting, but Alphari is there, ready with the ultimate to keep him alive, which, in all honesty, probably wasn't even necessary. Now, TSM, they're grouping up towards the top side, and just keep your eyes on the mini-map, because I believe Misfits have an inkling that this is actually starting off. There should be a blue ping that comes out. There it is. So they ping it, they realize that this is happening, and they just accept.
Say, hey, they might be at Baron. It's like, well, we can't make it in time, and if we face check, we're going to go into a Sejuani ultimate.
Exactly, so they just concede the objective. But I think they don't realize how slow this actually goes down.
Right.
I think they could have tried to make a play towards it, but instead, they just concede it. They realize, oops, we made a mistake. We're just going to play on and hope for the best.
Now, I want to ask you guys directly, because this whole time we've been talking about the game plan differences, been talking about the comp differences. If you're Misfits and your early game plan has been going according to plan so far, and now there's just this giant wrench thrown into the gears, how do you deal with this? How do you address this and get back on track?
Well, unfortunately for Misfits, they just kind of have to stall out the Baron. It becomes a little bit of an awkward spot, because in a full 5v5, I don't feel confident that they would just straight up win it in the moment. Which means the TSM, the pressure's in their court. They're the ones that are going to start sieging up onto these tier 2s, and they're the ones that are going to force Misfits into this uncomfortable situation.
Update on the pause situation. The clone did kill the buff. The buff did not transfer over to the real LeBlanc. This is a known bug that teams were aware of before entering into the game, and teams will play through it. The game will continue as is. There will not be any remakes. There will not be any chrono breaks. We've solved the problem, sort of.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not resolved, and Power of Evil is going to have to play through this right now, but there is a list of known issues, so to speak, or bugs, as you can call them, the teams have seen, and some of them say this is a known issue, will not remake for this, because technically Power of Evil could have outplayed it in a sense of not having his clone hit the bug, but that sucks. I'm just going to say that right now.
It's not good.
This absolutely
really
sucks
bad
for Power of Evil, and it's a really hard thing for him to have to play through now and not get tilted at this moment.
All right, let's see how well Misfits can now play on the defensive, wait out that Baron buff like you were talking about, Vedius, or if TSM can gain some momentum from this one. Hauntzer pushing up in the bottom side with those Baron Enchanted minions makes it very easy to take down the turret itself. TSM slightly up, 500 gold, the tune of their lead now. Not much to speak of, really. They need to utilize this to get as many objectives as possible. Tier 1 still standing in the mid lane for Misfits as TSM tries to figure out exactly how they want to approach this.
Yeah, and they're in a big power position right now. They can split push with the Renekton. If too many resources get sent down towards them, then TSM would be able to make a play on the other side. And when sieging turrets like this, you have to be in such respect of the Syndra stun. If he catches one, it could be the death of one person, and the Baron empowered minions could give TSM a big lead in this game.
Trying to push up middle, but Misfits doing a good job preventing that from working right now. TSM now appears to be trying to set a trap or a pick in the enemy jungle. Clearing out some wards as they go. Svenskeren on the front line. Bjergsen looking to find a stun. Not going to be doing it, but now Bjergsen and the rest of TSM have got to be careful. The Sejuani ulti not finding its mark onto anyone. Bjergsen below half spin as well. Doublelift takes out the red buff. Misfits can't quite collapse just yet, but Power of Evil is coming around from the flank. Misfits still may want to take this fight. Remember, the Sejuani has no ultimate.
Where's the rest of the engage? It's on a Shen. He's going to come in. They want to deliver.
Power of Evil trying to get in there as well. Svenskeren now going to be taken low. He's the target first and foremost, trying to get himself away. Ignar going to fall to Doublelift, and TSM turning this one around as Hauntzer continues to apply the damage. Grabbing the kill onto Alphari.
That was so close to being an initiation, but Power of Evil snapped back on the block as Alphari goes in, and the initiation was botched from there. TSM get the kills, and boy, are they sticking around at low health.
Power of Evil has the power to maybe make something happen here. This is what LeBlanc is born to do, but it's just so risky. TSM recognizes that. They back themselves away.
Sama.
Doublelift, no mana, almost no health. PoE still looking to maybe find that instant pop on the TSM line. Featherstorm comes out just to find them in the brush. TSM still moving exactly as a unit, getting themselves away. Power of Evil looking for the damage onto Hauntzer or Bjergsen, splits his fire a little bit. Hauntzer nearly taking out the heal to keep him alive to the Ignite, but it is not enough.
Wow, such teamwork attempt there by TSM to all kind of save each other as Misfits go in there, but there were so many missed opportunities for Misfits during that fight as TSM did everything in their power to navigate out of that flank that Misfits managed to find.
Such a close fight between the two teams, but it was Misfits that come out on top. Unfortunately for them, they could not translate it into any tower advantages, and it ends up just being an even trade in kills or a slight favor to TSM, I believe, but the gold's still very even, still very close game, and now the Baron has worn off. Misfits have successfully defended. And now we move into a neutral state in the game once more. And that all started with a red buff, Captain Flowers.
It's honestly incredible to me that TSM got Baron and Misfits still has a tier 1 turret standing.
And this is so key. They're trying to use LeBlanc as a Shen delivery system and find taunts on the flashless targets like Bjergsen. Power of Evil goes in, but he snaps back before Shen arrives, so no one gets onto Bjergsen. Great bubble on the Janna ultimate from Biofrost onto Ignar. Doublelift and Hauntzer are now unleashed because the backline is free, and TSM carry the fight from there.
Really well played there from TSM, and just a big misplay from Power of Evil. If he had stuck into the middle of the fight for just a little bit longer, taken advantage of the Shen ultimate, that taunt could have swung the fight so heavily in their favor, but he pulls out. He doesn't want to commit. He doesn't want to take that risk, and it ends up backfiring for them.
Yeah, but the risk of staying in is winning the fight. If you go out, you lose the fight because the Shen can never access it, so tragic mistake right there.
League of Legends is a game of seconds and oftentimes just microseconds, and that was the difference between that LeBlanc snap being right where it needed to be and being slightly early like we saw. Power of Evil now walking over a ward. TSM knows that Misfits players are waiting in their side of the jungle. They aren't going to face check that right now as Bjergsen moves up to clear away some of the minions. Power of Evil jumping in. Every single time Bjergsen uses that Scatter the Weak to keep him away, he immediately retreats to his previous distortion.
Bjergsen doing what he can to just zone Power of Evil off that all-in combo. You can even see Zhonya's now being worked towards by Power of Evil, so maybe next time he'll have that extra defensive utility to be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer. But note how Misfits still have pressure on two lanes, in mid and in bot. They don't care that much about top because the Mountain Drake is spawning soon, and that's going to be their next main objective. Alphari just needs to hold Hauntzer off for the time being, but he's decided not to go for like the Hydra to have that extra bit of wave clear and trading power.
as the Baron buff has faded away and things have gone back to normal, it's Misfits that seem to be back in control of the tempo of the game. The gold still slightly favoring TSM, as we mentioned earlier, but it's so close that Misfits still feel in control of the game.
Yeah, and we've learned a few things about gold leads so far at the World Championship right now. It matters who kills the Nexus. The gold leads haven't had that much of an impact depending on who can find the fights at the end of it. So it feels like TSM still very much playing the late game there, and getting the Baron has definitely extended how long it's been until they would fall into a deficit, but they might not even go for this Drake.
Drake live again, this time Baron not alive in time to be taken as a response. TSM moving in, looking to stop Misfits from taking this away. Dragon is very, very low. Who's going to grab the smite? The answer's Maxlore. Svenskeren having to retreat. Biofrost eating a lot of damage from Power of Evil. TSM moving themselves out again as one 5-man unit.
Waiting for the Shen ultimate in base so we could ult in with home guards, but they call it off.
TSM continuing to push. They've got priority over the mid lane. They have the inside track. Still quite a lot of damage that needs to be put onto this tier 1 to take it out, and they can't find it.
So Misfits, they walk away with the Drake. They don't lose anything in return. Power of Evil doing a great job of just applying pressure up on the side. And now Alphari has left the base. He's making his way up through the middle lane, ready to join his team. But TSM, they want this 5v5 situation. They want Misfits to group up.
They have control of Baron. Look at the vision from Misfits. It's not very much. Also, their far side totem is on cooldown already, so they don't have a safe way of getting that vision back.
TSM continuing to defend this brush. We have seen so many fights at Worlds 2017 so far around this spot, and it looks like we're gonna get another one. Initiation from Maxlore. TSM having to stay alive. Haunts are trying to zone Power of Evil away, but TSM health bars are being destroyed. They have to back away from this one. The Featherstorm flies, and Biofrost gonna be jumped on next. Power of Evil barely walking away. Flash into the taunt. They've got the lockdown. Bjergsen's out of there, and Hansama writes his death note as the rest of TSM have to escape.
Oh, they want so much more. They are not stopping this chase.
Haunts trying to return some damage, wants to punish this chase from Misfits, but they're so far ahead in terms of health. TSM has nothing they can do.
The jungler is still alive in TSM, though. Misfits, they've got a lot of low health members, and if they want to start the Baron, there's the risk of a steal. Hauntzer has the teleport too. He didn't lose his GA, so Misfits, they're just going to walk away with the kill.
You have to wonder whether or not them going for Baron after having TSM solo versus chasing for kills is a call that was worth making, but I think it was the right one, chasing through to get a few more kills based on how TSM would still be able to harass it. I gotta say, Maxlore is having an incredible game, initiation after initiation to set these things up, but it hasn't been quite enough to actually get them a big lead.
But think about all the summoner spells that have now been used from both sides. If Maxwell can get that same kind of initiation, or Sven can do the same for TSM.
They can still go for Baron now.
Misfits going
Bjergsen
for
just go
it.
top lane.
Trying to force this one down. Bjergsen top side means that he's got no way to reliably get down here quickly. TP gonna be used. And they scare Misfits away for now. Baron resetting. Might see yet another fight here in this topside river.
And this is the Misfits we were talking about. The way in which they play around means to force their opponents to make a move, and then they just disengage. They get the teleport out from Haunter, and now it's so much harder for him to move off onto a side lane, whereas Alphari, his ultimate is down. Hesitant to move off to the bottom lane, but once it's up, Misfits are the ones that will have that side lane pressure, and it makes things harder for TSM to control the map the way they want to.
TSM quickly learning just how effective Misfits can be in team fights like this.
Yeah, and right here, Maxlore sees an opportunity to get the carries. He gets both carries with his E, but doesn't actually get the ultimate to chain into it, which is critical to knock no one back. It means TSM can keep spacing. We got some tense moments in the mid lane, however.
You got to praise Bjergsen once again for a fantastic knockback stun onto Maxwell to prevent him from getting that ultimate, which could have ended in disaster for TSM. So the mid lane are coming up big once again.
TSM continuing to defend, Misfits continuing to pressure, the gold continuing to be a couple hundred apart. Both these teams just locked in this constant struggle, blow for blow, time and time again. Haunter not wanting to walk too close to that brush. Not the best idea.
And so many analysts talked about how TSM were the heavy favorites in this group, and Misfits were in a position to go 0-3 in the first week. And the fact that they're putting this much pressure onto TSM has got to be such a big confidence boost for them, regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely. TSM, the group that everybody said, oh yeah, they should win. They should win Group D. Misfits, a lot of people put them at the bottom. A lot of people said these guys probably don't stand much of a chance in this group, but now they're the ones who have been looking so damn good in this game against TSM so far. that Baron, that underestimation of the speed at which TSM can take it, that's what ended up costing them. But other than that, it's been a pretty clean game.
Yeah, and the big thing that's costing TSM right now is that teleport that Hauntzer used when Bjergsen showed top lane for the minion wave and Misfits turned around Baron, because that Shen, as slow as he may be moving because he has no Hydra to hit that turret, is going to kill that turret unless TSM make a move on the other side.
Red turret destroyed. You can see it on your screen. That's going to be number 4 for Misfits. Sama running away off to the side. Svenskeren not really finding anybody with the flail.
This is super smart by Misfits right now, and TSM is forced into forcing Baron. Otherwise, the Shen's going to take an inhibitor. They just got to go and try to fight.
Here we go. Svenskeren will be waiting over the wall. Finds some stuns. Only on to Maxlor, though. That's the front line. They're still going to take him very low. Hauntzer looking to find his way onto Hans Sama, but the feathers fly, and he's forced to retreat. The feathers will stay down. He doesn't recall them with the Blade Caller just yet. TSM now backing themselves away. Hauntzer, no ulti. TSM back onto the Baron.
They're back on the Baron, but they accomplished the goal of getting the Shen ultimate out. They feel so confident in this play. Incredibly risky.
Svenskeren tanking the Baron, losing a lot of his health to this one. Bjergsen low on mana. He can't contribute very well to this fight. Power of Evil, more chains coming through, but TSM backs away.
So many ultimates are unavailable for TSM. They don't feel confident to stick enough in this fight, and Hansam are going to quickly try to punish. Misfits playing around this Baron beautifully, and they're forcing TSM back. Oh no, TSM, they're back on the Baron!
They're trying to
made it! They're trying to go for the Baron yet again. Alphari on the front line. Misfits does not have everyone around.
Gragas is in base.
And Maxlor are back in the base. TSM may still be able to secure this. Alphari trying to buy the time, but Double Lift is gone! The Baron's secured by TSM, but they still lose one.
What
Make it 2.
an aggressive call. The GA pops up. It's the second death. And now what do they do with 54 seconds, 36 seconds? Those are the death timers for TSM.
This is the chance for Misfits to push up, take whatever they can find. You've got that 5 versus 3 moment. You've got the minions waiting right outside the base. It's time to break it open.
Maxlor's flash is up. Bjergsen's is not. He's going to go for it.
Bjergsen having to respect this, having to back himself away. TSM knows there's no way to defend this here.
Look at the Elder Drake as well. Misfits, if they get the inhibitor and turn this double Infernal plus Mountain into an Elder, that's still a pretty big game. What a fantastic fight that we are seeing between the EU and North American representatives, constantly back and forth. TSM with the quick decision making, but Misfits coming out with the team fight wins. Now TSM, they're concerned about the Elder. They do use the Farsight into the pit.
No flash on Bjergsen. Wherever he goes, he's in danger.
Power of Evil jumps out to the Envision. Double Lift, the one who's caught out yet again, taunted up and brought down. Svenskeren having to run, but he still should be taken down here. 4, make it 5 versus 1.
Think about who just died for TSM. That's double. One of the big carries of the team has been taken out. Bjergsen still has no flash, and Misfits have all 5 members.
They don't have Baron, but they do got a really big minion. Some call him a super minion in the mid lane. 3 versus 5. Bjergsen no flash. Bio no flash. They do have redemption, but this is a hard defense. Misfits going for the win.
If Bjergsen wants to make a name for himself as a legend, this is the time to do it. Only him and the Nexus stand in the way.
One Nexus turret gone. TSM have to make their fight with the flash into the taunt. Able to find Bjergsen. He's going to go down soon. He grabs the kill into PoE, but he still falls. 2 versus 4. Misfits still looking to end it. Hauntzer needs to find his way onto Hans Sama, but can't quite do it. Another big taunt from Alphari to lock him down, but Alphari drops instead. Hans Sama on the run. Nexus turret still standing. TSM reinforcements arrive, and they hold that Nexus.
You talk about Bjergsen's wanting to be a legend. How about Hauntzer after Bjergsen goes down, ulting in, wreaking havoc on the entire Misfits team. And that Elder Dragon might now go over to TSM. They killed 2 and they have 4.
What a fantastic base defense from TSM. They have their eyes on the Elder. Denying this from Misfits would be such a huge gain for them, but Maxlor is lying in wait. He wants to try and get the steal. He has no flash, but he has the Blast Co.
Already won 1 smite fight with Svenskeren earlier on. That got them the Mountain Dragon. That nearly gave him the damage to kill the Nexus. It did not. He needs to steal this again. As TSM's going for it, it would empower them so much for that push. He's going in.
Maxlor's been a hero this game so far, but he jumps in a little bit too early. TSM immediately turn and return fire. The Elder Drake slightly resets, but it will go the way of North America's #1 team.
Well played there by TSM. They delay Misfits from ending the game. And let's look back at how that all happened.
And this was huge. They flashed Taunt onto Bjergsen. They get him down, even though the Redemption keeps him alive for a fairly long time. And critically, Bjergsen takes down Power of Evil. Who's the next best damage dealer? That's who Hunter goes for. He immediately goes for Hans Sama, but also knows that if he dies, there's no longer a threat. And they're ultimately just trying to buy time for Double if he gets up with Home Guard. He threatens out of the base, and they keep that one Nexus turret alive. Their inhibitor will also be up fairly soon.
Just like we saw with Fnatic and Immortals, this game is a nail-biter. One crucial mistake could determine the outcome of this game. But if you just look at it as a whole, it's 8 towers to 2 in favor of Misfits. They have the kill advantage, but TSM have found the Barons, they have found the comebacks, and they are holding their own in this game.
And Hans Sama is huge. Look at his items. Max items right now, still deathless in the game. He can unleash onto this TSM team, and they do not have very much armor to deal with him. One of the reasons Misfits still winning these big fights.
I hope that LeBlanc clone isn't acting up again, because we have another pause. Hopefully resolved quickly, just like the last one. We'll give you guys an update whenever we can. But you know, you mentioned how for both these teams, the next big fight, the next big mistake could spell the game. I think the difference in the situation between these two is that for TSM, it quite literally is the game. You've got one Nexus turret barely holding onto a thread of life. The Nexus otherwise would be exposed. For Misfits, you've got quite a line of defense still left. You could lose a fight, you could lose control of the game, but you would not immediately then lose.
Yeah, while I agree, the later the game gets, the less that becomes a true statement. And it also depends on the locations of the fights, because if this becomes a game with the inhibitor that respawns, if TSM can somehow get mid lane priority back and you're fighting around Baron, those turrets are paper after you get the Baron buff, and they could push through to the end. But I absolutely agree that Misfits have so much control right now.
Quick update on exactly why it's paused. It appears that Doublelift is consistently seeing the LeBlanc clone even when it's not actually spawned. We've got League officials investigating into exactly what's happening with this, see if they can get that fixed. In the meantime, I want to take a look at that base defense again from TSM, break it down a little bit further.
So this is where it all started. Remember, Bjergsen at this point had no flash. Misfits, they want to try and get the pick rather than commit to the Elder, and then they find Doublelift. Out of nowhere, they see the AD carry, they shut him down. So one of the big wave clearers is still alive, but they get the teleport out from Haunter. With the jungler gone, Misfits feel confident to try and go for the end.
Yeah, and here's the big call. Misfits has a free Elder Dragon if they want it, but it is so difficult to actually get those picks. They've been trying all game. They make the bold call to try and go for this, and when you need to watch, do they maximize their turret damage in this play versus balancing it against killing the opponent? Power of Evil took a turret shot before all this happens. That knocks him a little bit low, and then as he dashes in, Bjergsen just...
Oh, so well played from Haunter there, getting the stun and the ulti out from Bjergsen. Beautiful coordination between the two. The fact that Bjergsen loses his life, at least it was an exchange, and then Haunter just acts as a terror. You were right to call him out there, Jack, because he did so much work in that base defense. There is still the super minion to allow Misfits to keep hitting onto the towers, but they committed to the fight rather than to ending the game.
And there's a huge difference between a 100 health Nexus turret and no Nexus turret. That thing gains health throughout the game, and if that's not down, then anyone, LeBlanc with the Shen ultimate throughout the rest of the game, could just walk in and end it. So you 100 health away, which was one auto attack onto a turret or one turret shot missed by Power of Evil, that could have been the difference in getting that second Nexus turret down, not necessarily into the game.
And we talked a lot about how that was such a clutch play from TSM. I feel like throughout this game we've seen a lot of clutch plays, but I do want to highlight one of the clutch players that we've seen from Misfits in Hans Sama, because coming into this tournament, there was a little bit of hype around him. He's a very popular player over in Europe. He's a very young individual making to his first finals in his home crowd in Paris, but now coming to the big stage here in China, in Wuhan. Expectations weren't of the highest. People thought that he wasn't the strongest mechanical player, but so far against Doublelift, he's been doing a fantastic job. And just his damage output this game has been phenomenal. He has twice the amount of damage out of anyone in this game.
Update on exactly what's going wrong. It appears a client restart, managed to fix the issue that Doublelift was experiencing. They're now going to go ahead, restart the clients for the rest of the members of TSM just to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else, and then we'll be able to get right back into game.
Also, due to the duration of the pause, the referees have allowed the players to talk to each other. This isn't this super extended silence that can end up getting to your head, so that's why you see them discussing, even though otherwise sometimes during pauses players are not. And to speak to what you just said, Vedius, about the expectations coming into this tournament, this is absolutely a monumental performance by Misfits. And I also think for TSM, this has been the story of most of their games throughout this stage. They are winning by incredibly slim margins. The Flash Wolves game was back and forth for 54 minutes, and one misposition or one bad flash would have cost them that game. They're in exactly the same position here, where their early game has been so poor, where they're falling behind that they have to constantly stall out and win in the late game. For what it's worth, they were really good at that in North America as well, and they've been drilling that skill for the entire split, but they're once again in the position where one great play by Misfits or one bad play by TSM will end the game.
And being in that position makes every decision in this game so much more critical. Something that otherwise might be a kill or 300 gold in your opponent's pocket is now your Nexus exploding. It's now losing an inhibitor. But now we're back into the game to see exactly how TSM may be able to execute with this Elder Dragon buff, or if Misfits will just continue to control the game.
Yeah, a 1 Infernal Elder is not very threatening. You do get the true damage burn and an extra 50% effectiveness from the Infernal Drake, but that's nothing compared to what would happen if Misfits would have gotten that Drake. So TSM should feel relatively confident knowing they have Flash on Bjergsen and Doublet, which is why I think they're going to try and get mid lane control.
Now, look at all the summoner spells that are back up and available. Everybody has everything. These next few fights are going to be insane, Captain Flowers. I hope you have your voice ready. I hope you're rehydrated.
You got the water.
I hope one game after this, Betty.
Yeah, we still have one game after this as well, but it's going to be insanely tense. Now, Haunter, he has moved towards the bot side because Misfits were trying to get pressure on mid. They still have the super minions pushing down that lane, so they're going to try and get control over the sides. You can see, I believe, to be a slow push in favor of TSM up in the top lane, slowly starting to stack, and Misfits, they're just going to clear out this wave that has been pushed all the way towards their tower. Meanwhile, Baron going to be spawning in about 2 minutes' time.
But as we approach 41 minutes, the Misfits Tier 1 turret may finally fall. TSM finally with enough damage to bring that thing down. They have tried so many times, and now success goes their way. Baron up in under 2 minutes, like you mentioned. Elder Drake also spawning from here on out. That means that there's going to be these neutral uber buffs on both ends of the map for these teams to contest. And you mentioned it earlier, Jack. You said so far at Worlds, we're not seeing the gold leads ultimately come out and be this big, like, oh, they were ahead so much gold, they won the game. It's coming down to team fights and execution, and Baron and Elder Drake are the things that are going to make that really happen.
Yeah, TSM has spent so much time in this murky middle ground of gold leads where no one is majorly ahead or majorly behind, and they've been good at not making the last mistake. That has been the reason they're 2-0 in this group, and Misfits do have the edge here. We need to emphasize with the inhibitor being open and the control around the Baron pit. TSM's got to do something creative to get it back.
Because, I mean, you got to praise TSM for their very clutch decision-making, like going for the Baron, knowing when to pick those fights. And while Misfits have done a great job of finding those avenues to get good fights, it's TSM that always just prevent Misfits from finally being able to end the game. Now, Haunter is coming in from a potential flank, but again, every summoner spell is up for both sides.
Baron in 30 seconds. You saw Misfits putting a bunch of vision around the area. Direct your eyes to the mini-map, and you'll see all those blue side wards around the back edge of the pit. Right now, you can see their vision explicitly on your mini-map. It shows those avenues that TSM might try to approach from if they want to stop Misfits. And just the amount of respect that TSM is forced to show to Misfits right now just because of how much they've been able to do in these fights so far for a team that we said weren't very good at late game team fighting. This wasn't where the team shined. This is where TSM was supposed to be in their element, but Misfits are going right there with them.
It's a LeBlanc Shen composition. They've been winning fights because they've gotten amazing initiations from Maxlord.
Maxlord doing more than his fair share of the work this game, as now Haunter comes in, trying to make the move on to Power of Evil. Spin Scaring, getting down a stun, throwing out another one with the Glacial Prison. How far he makes his way in. Spirit's Refuge to provide some protection. Hansama going to be taken very low. Doublet having the Redemption come down onto him. Massive stuns from Bjergsen. Redemption keeps the Misfits players in good enough shape to potentially continue here. Power of Evil, the one who's isolated, but he's also the one with all the mobility. Gets away just fine. TSM now with control over the Baron area themselves. They've got the control over the river. They're putting down the vision, sweeping out the Misfits vision.
But they don't have control over the waves. The top and bot lanes are massive, so TSM's in a really tough position here, trying to get control of the mini waves back, and Misfits is pressuring them off.
Misfits health bars are back to full, by the way. TSM telling a similar story, but not quite as strongly. Misfits know they've got control over this area, and the map favors them. Power of Evil jumping out onto Sven, not really the guy you want to find. The Arctic Armor from Sejuani, very effective at preventing those quick bursts of damage. Stun lands onto Hansama. Remember, Hans, no ulti available right now, no summoner spells either.
Look at those top waves. You can see in the top lane and the bot, massive stacks for Misfits.
Yeah, the top wave has 1 cannon, the bottom lane has 3. So both of those turrets have the real potential of going down if TSM doesn't answer.
And yet again, TSM is forced to make a decision. Misfits put them in this spot time and time
Here they
again.
go.
And now they're going. This
Do
could
or
very well
die.
determine the outcome of the game. TSM on the Baron, not taking it down quickly. Saving abilities, saving cooldowns for the upcoming fight. Baron down to half. TSM still looking for more. Sejuani ulti comes out. Alfari the target. Spirit's Refuge keeping him alive. But Double Lift is down! And Bjergsen runs from Maxlore as Misfits look to clean up the rest of TSM and end this game!
Power of Evil found the chain onto Doublelift. The barrier wasn't enough. They killed 3. The minions are already in place for Misfits to end this game.
Misfits know they can win this one. Biofrost can try to waste as much time as he likes. Haunser respawns from the GA. Alfari grabs the kill, and Misfits push up mid.
Misfits, the underdogs in this game. No one expected anything, but they bit hard down onto TSM. They're gonna get the upset win. They're gonna get the game.
They stopped TSM from having the perfect week 1 in groups. They grabbed the ace at the end. This team was excited to play against TSM. They were excited at the prospect of shutting up those chants, and now they did it.
And to Max Lore's point, he did beat TSM faster than he beat Flash Wolves by a whole minute.
What a showing from the number 2 team from Europe against America's number 1 representative. Awesome team fighting, awesome playmaking. They controlled the game well.
And for Misfits to play around that Baron so beautifully, especially if Xayah is available too, means you can pair it up with something like the Tristana and you still have an all-in bot lane. The Sion ban. There was a smirk on Pobelter's face there.
So I had to look in a different angle because I never see Sion banned, and oftentimes
I didn't know what champion that was
oftentimes
either.
the flash arts are flipped in ban phase, so they're looking away instead of looking forward. So I believe that's what happened with Sion. That's why I didn't recognize it. What?
Yeah, that's a ban
That's
right
some
there.
scouting right there. Maybe some of the Gigabyte Marine scrim partners have been talking, or they saw something in solo queue. That's the only explanation I have.
I mean, I watched I'm a Cutie Pie stream the other day. He was playing full AD Sion top.
You know what? Maybe that's it.
Maybe
they're
that's it.
thinking, hey, what's the weirdest thing
What
we've
would
seen in
PewDiePie
solo queue?
do?
Yeah, that's the Gigabyte Marines manual right there. But let's see exactly how they really decide to go through this. They grab Lulu first and foremost, and that's not anything rocking the boat, boys. This is pretty much one of the most standard picks you could go for. More standard coming out from Immortals as they pick up the Gragas and the Xayah.
But now you have the Xayah Rakan for Immortals. I mean, Ole has always been praised during the regular season as being the big playmaker for the team, this guy that's risen to the top of NA supports. And when you give him a champion like Rakan and you pair it up with a Xayah, that's kind of terrifying if you're going up against this Immortal squad.
Gigabyte Marines picking themselves up the Kog'Maw, so going to have that late game hyper carry potential, as well as grabbing the Cho'Gath, another Void monster, but a very different one.
Yeah, so far, no surprises. The only surprise would be if the Cho'Gath moves into the jungle, since almost everyone plays in top lane nowadays. But if they have anything different, it's in there. And the fact that they're giving over Xayah Rakan again is a little bit shocking. Janna's obviously up as well, but Xayah Rakan are often disrupted for a reason.
Yeah, those two are very, very strong together, and we did actually see Levi play the Cho'Gath in the jungle in their game versus Longzhu, but it just didn't work out very well. Stylistically, it feels like a mismatch for him as a player. We see him always succeed on these big playmakers and carries and not these giant lumbery monsters that try to stomp around and build up their HP. But now that we're into the second part of the bans, I'm curious to see if Immortals has any more of that inside knowledge. Lucian banned away, Taliyah banned away.
For the time being, everything looks fairly standard. Yep, nice respect being shown from the Gigabyte Marines towards Pobelter. We were only just talking about how he did have that great performance against Fnatic, and Immortals, they're going to stick with some standard bans of their own. Kassadin being directed towards Optimus, definitely a big comfort pick for him in the middle lane.
One more for Gigabyte Marines to go along with that Taliyah. They know that Immortals are going to be picking strictly solo laners, so that's where those bans will be aimed. How do they go about doing it? What's up the Marines' sleeve this time around?
Mordekaiser.
I don't think we're going to see another more. After the
Nocturne.
0-7-0 performance, I'm doubting it a little bit, guys, but Gnar is the pick at the end of the day.
So a bit of focus towards the top lane as well. Flame, he's had a pretty impressive Worlds Group stage himself so far, banning away one of the side lane pressure carries in the form of Gnar. and allowing Immortals to pick themselves up a pretty stable mid lane. We saw it from Bjergsen earlier in the day. Pobel's now going to have his shot at bringing out the champ.
I mean, Immortals is picking a composition that is right in their wheelhouse stylistically. I'm going to stop talking about that for a moment, though, because these last 2 picks is whether or not we see something a little bit different from Marines.
Come on, please, Marines, do it, do it, do it. Levi, I remember that game where he got like 350 CS in a single game.
Yep,
That's
there
how
we
we're
go.
gonna do it.
Kane locked in. Now, will they just do boring old red Kane, or will they be adventurous and play
No,
blue
they
Kane?
should do the red Kane, okay? I feel like the red Kane makes the most amount of sense. We can talk a lot more about it once we get into game, but Gigabyte Marines, they're gonna defy expectations. Flowers, they're pick and stand.
All right, let's see how it works with Ryze locked in as their final pick.
Yeah, and I do feel like people are a little overly grandiose with what they're expecting from the Gigabyte Marines to pull out. It's the first Kane of group stage. That is still something
fun.
new.
That's fun.
Right? So, yes, their picks look like things you've seen before. It's because a lot of picks are in pro. There's only so many champions they can pull in that you haven't seen before. So another non-meta jungler is what I'm going to call it for Levi.
Immortals locking in Shen as their top laner and final pick of this draft. I also want to point out that Gigabyte Marines are running Heal Ignite, those Silsal Summoner spells for people who played back in Season 1.
In North America.
In North America, yes. It's a very specific reference, but I'm sure there's at least 2 people in the audience who get it. But those Summoner spells, we saw them work in the victory against Fnatic. Maybe they'll work again here.
But it's against the Zyra Khan, Flowers. Like, this
man.
bottom lane can kill you at level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Like, how can you not
Thaddeus,
run Flash against that?
Let me pitch you on this.
Go, hit me.
All right, let's see what he's got.
Did Mako have Flash against Wolf's Rakan when he lost that team fight? Yes! You can't Flash Rakan, man!
Okay.
The heal's gonna help you when you're in there.
That's the logic. Why?
That's the sell.
You can't be punished for not flashing if you don't have Flash in the first
Stand
place.
there and fight.
Somebody's going back to the spawn platform, and you hope it's not going to be you.
All right, well, it's the Gigabyte Marines versus Immortals. They picked what looks like a fairly standard comp, but will they stick to the standard style? We saw the Lulu with the no flash be swapped up to the top side. Kane going to be very heavily focused on getting counter jungling in, invading in the enemy side of the map, but you need strong laners to do it. And when you have Cho'Gath and you have Ryze, you don't typically consider them to be the strongest laners during the early game.
Let's see how it breaks out today. Remember, Gigabyte Marines, such gigantic differences in their 2 performances so far. They'd really like to grab this win against Immortals. With both teams coming into this one at 1-1, it means somebody walks away with a positive record going into week 2, and somebody doesn't.
Yeah, and even though almost no one gives over, Xayah and Rakan and Gigabyte Marines did do that to Longzhu as well as in this game, Ole hasn't played it in the summer split, so it's definitely something that he's needed to practice in order to pull out here.
And look at the stats on your screens right now. The highest and second highest champion kills per minute in group stage teams. These 2 right now, it's going to be a bloodbath by all measures.
Exactly. Teams that are used to playing fast, are those naturally suited to go up against the Gigabyte Marines? Or if you're not fast enough, does it actually just expose you to more risk? That's one of the things we're going to be able to find out in this game.
It's like juggling balls when casting Gigabyte Marines. Sometimes they go perfectly, sometimes they kind of go all over the place. You never really know what you're going to get. As Gigabyte Marines, they're looking to set a bit of an invade up right now.
Well, listen, they got scouted out last time they did it, but now they see Ole!
Here we go. Ole doesn't find his knockup. Instead, he's going to be killed. First blood, Gigabyte Marines. Pobelter flashes over the wall. Cody flashes over the wall. That went awful for Immortal.
Yeah, and I have to wonder what Ole was really thinking. Like, Marines knew he was there. They had wards all throughout their own jungle, and Ole didn't even have a numbers advantage. He just jumped into 4 people.
Lulu doesn't have flash. Let's go.
Listen to the crowd. GAM. They are in support of this team. They made a name for themselves, taking down Fnatic. Yes, they got crushed by Longzhu, but now they've gotten themselves first blood. They're going for standard lanes, and starting off by taking 4 summoner spells away from Immortals is a fantastic way to kick this off.
The ward saw them walking through, but then Ole just way ahead of the team with Shen not even close. An unconscionable invade right there by Ole, but it cost him first blood. Now Ryze has it.
Now I want to see Levi make his way down to the bottom lane. No flashes on either champion. You don't have a huge amount of CC, but you got a lot of damage with Kayn. This guy can run through walls, he can take creative paths, and I love seeing that Levi is already invading. I've heard from so many players that jungle Kayn could only be played properly if he's stealing stuff away.
Exactly. We have seen this pick in the LCS and in pro play, and it's early. You need to make it worth early. You have to use your mobility to get the counter jungle again. Getting first blood and getting the early wards helps a ton with this, and Xmithie walks right into it as well. He's going to miss out on probably his whole jungle if he's able to smite this away. Levi has smite, Xmithie does not. Levi
Be a smite battle, but Levi is the one to walk away with it. Super successful counter jungling coming out from the Gigabyte Marines jungler. This is the kind of champion we like to see this guy on too. Now healing up off of the Scuttle Crabs, we can continue getting in Xmithie's face.
And we talked about the different evolutions just as we were getting into game, and you would expect Levi to go towards Rust.
He wants to kill him.
Or go towards Xmithie,
Whoa.
find some damage, but instead, Xmithie just sidesteps out of the way of it. That's one of the troubling parts about Kayn right there. He's so mobile in the jungle. He's got so many ways to get in and out.
And all the attention that Levi is drawing here is helping their bottom lane a lot. No way out CS and Cody Sun, because they've been dancing between that jungle trying to back up Xmithie, and they've lost on both fronts.
I was curious as to why Levi wasn't using his W, and it turns out that he didn't even max it. He just decided
Didn't
to
even
max
learn it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, he didn't even decide to pick that ability up. Decided to just put all his points in Q and E. Additional wave clear on the Kayn. He just wants to steal away those camps. He wants that additional wave clear. And already being level 4, he's just going to make Xmithie's life as difficult as possible in the early game.
Yeah, Levi is all about first. First person to play Kayn here in the group stage, fastest first blood of the group stage, fastest to level 6 we've ever seen when he played Nocturne. This guy always is the innovator, trying to get one step ahead of the enemy jungler because he puts them out of their comfort zone, whereas he's been practicing this stuff, he's right in his zone.
There comes your initiation from Immortals onto the bottom lane of Gigabyte Marines. That's that lack of flash on Lulu that might end up being problematic later. Nevin taken very low here, gonna eat some of those biscuit, potion, whatever they are, heal himself back up. Is he in nowhere? Still okay for now.
Like the decision making from No Way though, go straight onto the AD carry rather than onto the support. Realize that the damage threat is going to be Cody Sun and just prevent him from getting involved. But now we have to talk a little bit about Immortals, because they are the ones in the deficit, they are the ones that have been pushed back. But in terms of the laning phase, things still going reasonably well up in the top side for Flame. He's holding his own well up against Archie. You see Cobalt are not that big of a deficit, and the AD carries, they're still staying relatively even. The only one that's really struggling is Xmithie in the jungle.
Yeah, and I think what gets lost a lot of time when everyone is throwing around cheese and what's Gigabyte Marines going to do is, at the end of the day, when they beat Fnatic, it was because they had a fed Trist Lulu.
Yep.
Right?
It was almost a pentakill.
They used these creative strategies to get through the mid game, but they still knew how to play. So in this game, they invaded more aggressively than a lot of other teams would. Potentially they put Immortals in a different mindset about what they were going to do, and they gave Levi an early lead in the jungle. And now, if they scale the late game with Ryze, Kog, Lulu, Cho, they'll be just fine.
It doesn't feel like cheese. Cheese would be if Levi gets level 2 and then sits in a bush waiting for Xmithie for 2 straight minutes and just tries to bank his entire game on getting a kill.
Exactly. Everyone has their own definition of what cheese is, and they often use it as an insult, like, oh, you need to cheese because you can't beat us playing exactly the way we want to play you.
Yeah.
Like, that's BS right there, because ultimately, you're all playing the same game with the same tools. So if Gigabyte Marines use a different strategy, go for it.
Well, now the strategy is gank bot lane, especially onto the guy with no flash. That is the punishment for those unorthodox summoner spells.
Well, this is kind of what we were talking about. Unfortunately for the Gigabyte Marines, they didn't move down to the bottom lane. They didn't try and punish the flashless AD carry and support, and that means that it allowed time for Xmithie to make his way down. There was no vision from Gigabyte Marines, and INT, they make their way onto the board.
Yeah, that was a good gank, and it's neutralized this early game, especially if they can get ahead of No Way. They're not going to get to that late game Kog'Maw Lulu, and they need to be able to play this lane in a safe way. Doesn't even use heal here, and technically would have had that incredibly small window to flash away had he had it, but that was a pretty good gank by Immortals regardless.
Immortals getting themselves on the board, but the gold lead still favors Gigabyte Marines ever so slightly. First Drake is Ocean, so he might not be the most desirable objective to start the game out with. You can see that gold lead is 600. It's the lead. It's also the difference between the junglers. Levi doing a lot of work so far. He has hit level 6 on the Kayn. Kane's ultimate isn't the greatest in base form, though.
It's cool, though.
It's cool.
It does a lot of damage. You can have a lot of cooldown plays with it. Pretty effective against Syndra, especially, as well. So we'll see how that plays into account later on. But the other big thing to note is Flame has now hit level 6. Remember, no flash in the bottom lane. If you get a good push-off with Cody Sun and Ole, they can look to try and make that dive down bot. Gigabyte Marines have answered with a bit of vision in the river, but Levi, he's just trying to continue with the jungle aggression into Immortals half of the map.
Yeah, and this is the point of the game where he really wants to work up towards that transformation. He does have his ultimate, which is nice, but he's not reaching that point of true power until he can get his first transform.
And it's one of the reasons why you have to be so active on this champion. So much of your power is gated into the evolution that you need to be getting those orbs. You need to be getting that damage. You will find some against Xmithie here. Now, though, the collapse coming in from Immortals. The stun lands onto Levi, but calling him in any sort of danger there would have been a lie.
Gigabyte Marines have to respect the Shen ult at this point. Yes, they're playing with the lead that they have on Levi, but it doesn't mean that this is just a free-for-all.
Optimus tries to flash to get the root now. Going into the Realm Warp. That was
Rooting
kind of
over
a
the
mess.
wall, spamming your spells as the Realm Orb's going to take him. Hey, it burned the flash in the Shen ultimate, but it cost his own flash and ultimate, so it's a wash.
That was a bit of a messy one. I don't know about that outcome specifically. Levi will find Flame here, walking into the brush, dashing forward, just harassing him a little bit, making his life harder as he walks back to his own lane. Making it even harder now, getting those orbs.
Levi just being a pest.
One orb.
There's no camps left for him to steal. Xmithie has already made his way back towards the bottom lane, but this time Gigabyte Marines are aware of his ability to set up a gank. Ole level 6 as well. Look at the level difference between the bottom lane. No Shen ulti or TP, but with these 3 members, these should be strong enough to be able to set up a dive.
So under-leveled.
This. Nevin is level 4. His health bar just looks so tiny, but only the base health to work with.
See, guys, in solo queue, this sometimes is a risky strat. You need to run flash on your support, especially against a champion like Rakan.
Levi now being brought up into the mix to clear these waves away, try to save turret first blood. No way continuing to clear those out, and Levi has done his job. Back to farming.
So as much, Vedius, bit of a tangent, as much as I feel like the flash could have helped him escape that one gank,
sure.
I think it's more knowing Nevin just not being as good at laning as Cody Sun or Ole, or the
Very
fact
valid.
that Xayah Rakan bullies every Kog'Maw Lulu lane. So credit to Ole and Cody Sun for bullying them in here, and also being able to land an all-in through a barrier heal lane. So good on them. And I'm going to hold personally off on the flame of the Healing Knight players.
I mean, Cody Sun and Ole, this was a bottom lane that people weren't honestly given a lot of credit or respect with. At the beginning of the season, we're tossing all the way back to Spring Split here, but then throughout summer, Immortals, as they went from a 7th place team to a team that went to the finals of the North American LCS Summer Split, a big reason for that was Cody and Ole's play, a lot of which came out in lane.
Absolutely, and they're going to be able to break this first turret, feels like no problem. Levi's still trying to farm up to level 8, not helping that bottom lane whatsoever, as we see a lot of other teams doing when their bottom lane is in trouble. He's trying to delay that lane. Instead, they might go for play on somewhere else on the map.
And look at the farm lead too. Cody Sun 103, No Way 70 at the moment the turret falls. The gold lead now almost 1,000 in the favor of Immortals after the level 1 mishap. Things have pretty much done nothing but sway their way. Now moving to grab that first trade.
It's been harder and harder for Levi to really exert pressure into the enemy half of the jungle. He will now move top to be able to get this turret, which will equalize the turret score, but Immortals, they're still keeping up with the plays themselves. They've been able to take that first tower of the game, transition that very quickly into an Ocean, and an Essence Reaver already completed for Cody Sun.
Yeah, and I think Immortals has done a good job stabilizing this game after the failed invade level 1. The fact that they won that lane so hard after losing Ole's Ignite, Flash, all that stuff, and then also after Xmithie did the invade that gave No Way the 10 CS lead early, like that lane completely flipped thanks to the strength of their mid-game laning.
Gigabyte Marines have to find some way to make this early game go well for them. That's the way that we've seen so many of their wins come out. They innovate, they theorize, they find all these new ways to play, but now those ways to play are getting punished pretty hard. Wild growth from Nevin onto himself, but Stand United brings another Immortals player into the mix and more money into the pocket of Cody Sun.
I'll give you this one. Flash would have been pretty nice there.
But also just good utilization of the channel from Immortals. This is something that we were talking about earlier on, where it's very easy to just make plays happen in the bottom lane because you have the Rakan who's great at engaging, and you just have the immediate Shen follow-up. So even if Levi's there to help him out, it's just going to still be a 3 versus 2 in their favor, and they're going to be able to get the successful team fight.
Levi farming up his Krugs, but now being pressured by Ole and Cody, has to walk back, using Kane's ever so handy ability to do that. But Xmithie, even though he's 2 levels down on Levi, walking through the jungle, recognizing the power of his own laners to help him if he gets into that 1 versus 1, and now that's exactly what they're doing. Levi
trying to force this fight.
Get himself out of this one. Realm Warp coming in, but nobody even steps into it. Cody Sun popping the ulti, Archie coming in from the flank, trying to grab somebody, but Immortals reinforcements have arrived. Xmithie goes over the wall, Archie goes after him, flash for flash, Rupture not quite gonna slow him down enough just yet. Has to knock him away.
Yeah, lots of disengage there for Immortals as Gigabyte Marines can't quite force hard enough. Archie really tried there, but ultimately just able to trade flash for himself and the jungler, so you got to question whose flash was more valuable there. Will diminish the initiation for Xmithie for the next few minutes.
You can also see that Immortals were able to successfully get a lot of deep vision down into the Gigabyte Marines bottom half jungle. What they'll utilize that for is up to them, but it could be a potential roam or flank. As you can see, Noe and Nevin with no turret to play around, becomes very easy to collapse upon down the 2v2.
All right, boys, take a look at this, though. The Gigabyte Marine gold differences during the group stage. It stays consistent there for a while, but then as it approaches 10 minutes, you can start to see the divergence. 20 minutes, it's very far apart, and those are the 2 games that they've had so far. Once it starts going one way, it doesn't stop. That's the lesson.
Yeah, what's interesting in this game is it is different, right? The gold is even. We haven't had that insanely volatile lane swap dive forced by the Marines by lane swapping. I wonder actually if they planned on lane swapping but then pivoted to playing standard once they got the first blood. There's always a possibility of that, but in this game, it doesn't necessarily seem like they have the same type of combination for the Power Farm 6. You never know, though.
And I feel like Levi, the impact that he's been able to have on this Kayn has just been dwindling as the game progressed. Initially, we saw him setting up a lot of great invades. We saw him putting a lot of pressure down onto Xmithie, but now Xmithie's reaching this point where he has more team fight value. He has more utility on the Gragas. He's going to be tankier later on into the game. It's going to be easier for Immortals to both start these fights and team fight in general. So Gigabyte Marines, you kind of need to see where they're going to go with this composition they've drafted, because it's kind of a little bit all over the shop with a bit of early game, a bit of mid game, and a bit of late game everywhere from their car.
Immortals now rotating that bottom lane mid. They've taken the bottom lane tier 1. Tier 2 is a bit difficult to push on to 15 minutes into the game, so instead they'll start putting the damage into the tier 1 mid lane. Cody Sun, very strong right now. You missed the Essence Weaver before. Compare that to the Kog'Maw that's still juggling around pieces of Ginsu's Rage Blade, which feel really bad to just buy on their own, by the way. Having a Blasting Wand sitting in your 80 carries inventory just doesn't do a lot for you.
At an incredibly weak point in the game right now. That is okay, though, sometimes when you're camping mid lane. One of the harder turrets to dive as long as they can continue to clear that wave. Ryze also transitions into side lane fairly well, especially with Abyssal Mask. That's what Gigabyte Marines is trying to do. Surprisingly, all very standard stuff.
The Ruby Crystal completed for Levi in his inventory now almost guarantees to me that he's going to be going Red Kayn instead of Blue Kayn, just because of the fact that
I'm sorry to break your heart, Cloud.
Blue Kayn builds nothing but long swords and items that come from long swords, so probably not the health crystal today. Levi showing right there why you probably want to have a little bit of tankiness in this game. The damage from Pobelter's Syndra will be very threatening as we go on. He's got the Morellonomicon done now as well, so healing's going to be that much more difficult to get it to stick onto him as the Immortals push continues. It looks like Gigabyte Marines not in a spot to stop it.
Impressed with how Immortals are just keeping this bot lane push as they move between bot and mids. They make sure that someone from Gigabyte Marines is always there to answer the wave. That means Immortals have the numbers advantage, and it makes taking that mid tower down that much easier. They've now finally gotten themselves the gold lead, and the game is now much more in an easier state for a team like Immortals to be able to read and plan their next move.
Yeah, exactly. So any type of early game shenanigans of neutralizing is that 1,000 gold lead for Immortals, where they have a lot of CC and initiation. Looking at the way the Marines need to try and make it to late game, they don't have that much CC initiation, but they need to find a way to keep the farm going up onto No Way's Kog'Maw. He needs to hit those items, and then I think they actually have a chance of having pretty decent mid-game team fights.
Still a close game, 1,000 gold separating the sides. Levi moving towards the Rift Herald with the help of Nevin, who's still only a level 7 Lulu. Pretty far behind the curve here in this game. Ole now cresting level 9. Rift Herald going to be given up on there. Gigabyte Marines not able to grab that one just yet.
And Levi really needs to transform before he can force right now. The level 10 at the moment is really difficult for him to get by.
Picked up again now by Immortals. Shouldn't be any sort of contest between themselves and Gigabyte Marines as they grab that one for free. That's 2 oceans in their pocket. As this game goes on, that extra regeneration may prove very helpful if they like to skirmish with Gigabyte Marines, back out immediately afterwards. They'll be topped off again. They can go right back in there.
And it just feels like that Immortals are the ones now dictating the pace of the game. Thanks to Cody Sun and Ole, the advantages they built themselves up in the bottom lane, they're the main carries that are being moved around the map and trying to pressure Gigabyte Marines into making a bad decision that they can then look to capitalize.
Honestly, I feel a little bit... What's the word I'm looking for? A little bit lied to by the stats this game, because we came into this thinking these two teams have the highest amount of champion kills per minute so far. This should be a bloodbath. But now, maybe they're looking to rectify that lie. Archie getting himself caught out, beat down, giving another kill over to Cody Sun.
These teams super dead. I mean, Flowers, there was 1 combined kill per minute for the Marines, about 0.8 for Immortals, I believe, averaging 0.9. Currently, we have 4 in 20, so I think you're fine to think that you're live to a bit. But games do accelerate in kills as they extend forward, so there's still a chance.
All right,
especially with the Immortals having all these Ocean Drakes, they're going to keep staying healthy.
Let's see how the chance looks here for Gigabyte. Never mind, doesn't look good. Flame gets himself away, Spirit's Refuge keeps him safe.
Quick
Not
assessment
too
there,
worried
Flowers.
about that one. Yep, we're able to do that quick math and see they don't have enough damage to do 2,000 to his health instantly.
Well, Gigabyte Marines will be able to get their second turret of the game, but Immortals already on track to get themselves their third. Immortals just seem to be faster on the play. They were able to find that successful pick onto Archie, and it's just starting to feel harder and harder for Gigabyte Marines just to find some kind of answer to this constant bot lane pressure from Immortals.
And talking about being faster on the play, you're the one who said it at the beginning, I believe, Jat, where you were talking about if you're fast and you play against fast, is it good because you know what to expect, or are you just going to get outclassed in that respect? Right now, Gigabyte Marines is the one who's saying, oh, well, I guess maybe we're not fast enough.
Yeah, or do both teams just sit back and think, this team is going to try something funny, let me watch them. And then they just stare at each other for 19.5 minutes.
But then you kill the enemy.
Yeah.
Right here, just like this.
This is where they found the kill. Archie stuck around too long trying to clear the ward out. Used his flash, bit of a waste, arguably, but on the bright side, he gets the Shed ulti out. But he does end up losing the Rift Herald and a top lane tower, which results in a 20 minutes.
Right.
So I don't think they're going to rush it down.
We saw it last game at 22.
We did, but that was because an entire team went down to the Infernal Drake. So there was a big window for that to happen. Whereas Immortals, they're just setting up vision and making it a pressure point. They're forcing Gigabyte Marines into this situation where they go, oh, are they doing it? Are they not? Maybe we have to check. And that's where someone like Ole will find his pick, find the kill, and then maybe they can translate that into a barrier.
Yeah, but the game is still at a point, even with the 2 Ocean Drakes, that one fight could end up swinging it in a very big way. One thing that Gigabyte Marines talked about when comparing their roster from MSI to now is the bottom lane being switched out. I mean, No Way is the new addition to this team, and they rave about how good he is, building hyper carry compositions around him and him being a true carry for the team. So it's still on him to perform in a big way as this game approaches late.
As this game goes further and further, we're now 21 minutes in. Immortals taking the tier 2 turret away from the Gigabyte Marines. Look at the man on the flank, Levi. In case you haven't noticed, he's still base Kayn. 21 minutes into the game on a champion that normally wants to evolve around 15 or before. He's not in a spot where he can take those early advantages and do anything with them.
Hasn't been enough action for him to be able to get involved and get that transformation. Goes back to base once again. Still not even having his Black Cleaver, and finally,
there we go.
21 minutes and 36 seconds.
Scythe through the heart, gets impaled. Now he's got some power.
This is why you want to be playing the Kayn as an invade-style jungler, but to do that, you need pressure in lanes. After Archie got a few levels, yes, he had the push, and Optimus went pretty even against Pobelter, but the bottom lane was struggling so much that Levi didn't really have that freedom to just sit in Xmithie's jungle, keep harassing Xmithie out of the jungle, and he just wasn't finding those opportunities to get those stacks.
Well, now that they've got the Kayn evolved, at least they've got him to a point where he can be useful in these fights. The knock-up on his W, one of the most useful parts of that evolution. But Immortals is just putting so much pressure on right now. They're taking another tier 2 turret 22 minutes in.
Just tower after tower after tower for Immortals. They have great vision set up. They realize that Gigabyte Marines are constantly answering the minion waves. They get pushed underneath their tower. They're in a bad position, so they can't answer. And that gives IMT a very swift objective.
Yeah, and I think Immortals is playing this one really smart. They're getting enough wards down. They're sieging in a safe way. We haven't actually seen Ole go for many plays. If anything, he's followed up Xmithie when he does go for a body slam flash, but they haven't needed to because as long as this goal lead continues to extend and as long as Cody Sun stays so far ahead of the curve of Noe's items, they're going to be absolutely fine.
40 seconds till that next Drake spawns. That'll likely go over to Immortals if they continue to control the game at the pace they're doing right now. Gigabyte Marines, this team feels totally different this game. Before, they were always looking for options. It was never a slow bleed from Gigabyte Marines. It was, we're going to just end this game faster. We're going to die trying. They're always trying to make a move, but today it's just the opposite.
On the bright side, it's better than their long 2 game. They don't have a 0-7 Mordekaiser. So you've got to look at the bright sides. They still have the potential for a Cogmore. You know, as Cass has always talked about, the late game. You know, so far, Immortals are doing a great job of slowly pressing their advantage further and further into the base of Gigabyte Marines. But if they slow down at any point and Noe is able to get that 2 or 3 item Cogmore state, then maybe we can see this shining, this rising AD carry for the Gigabyte Marines have more of an impact. But it's hard to believe when Cody Sun has like a 2.2k gold advantage over his AD carry counterpart.
Yeah, Cody Sun working on big item number 3 now, and then at the edge, feathers fly, and he immediately cuts down the enemy support. Player Xmithie grabbed the kill onto No Way now as well. Levi and Optimus having to flash themselves out to stay alive. I don't know if you can say the same thing for Archie here. Does flash away, does stay ticking for now as they continue the chase. Immortals want more blood. Flame looking to solo down Archie as the rest of the team works together, getting rid of Optimus. 2 left alive on the side of the Gigabyte Marines, and now Archie, he's number 4. He's out of there, and Immortals go 1 for 4.
They clean house in that fight the Gigabyte Marines tried to start. And for Lulu, if you're gonna bring Heal Ignite, at least use the heal when you're getting bursted down. He dies before using anything in that fight. Cody Sun as well able to avoid that engage. Xayah is a great pick for him as well. I feel like there are instances, even in the Longzhu game, as Levi tries to take down Flame. We're gonna follow this.
Flame trying to fight this one out. Now that he's got Nevin here, he's got no way. Levi takes him out, but they traded away for Baron, which is not really what you want to be trading those single kills for.
I think Immortals can be pretty happy with how that all played out. Gigabyte Marines are going to try and get some consolation prize, but this is where we see Gigabyte Marines trying to get a flank off. They use the Rise ulti, their target is Cody Sun, but immediately he flashes away, he gets out of the fray, he has the Shen ulti too, and the rest of Gigabyte Marines are just getting melted by the front line of IMT.
Gigabyte Marines want to take this Ocean Drake down for themselves. Nice pick onto Pobelter. They grab themselves the Drake as well. This could be exactly what the team needs. Xmithie to fall next.
Big misplay there from Immortals. They think they can just walk up to the Dragon. They think they can contest, but then Archie gets the nom-nom down. He forces the kill down onto Xmithie and Pobelter. And that results in an Ocean, and now pressure going in favor of the Gigabyte Marine.
Yeah, you're still against a Cho'Gath at the end of the day, so a rather bold attempt to take that third Ocean. Just got a cycling death timers. They got to make sure they recover enough so they can actually get the 5v5 where they've shown they have an advantage.
Levi tried to go through the wall there, see if he could find anybody to throw up into the air with the sight, but unluckily for him, Cody Sun and Ole stick together constantly this game. Ole knows he needs to be protecting Cody, knows how strong Cody is, and he's perfectly fine just hanging around him, attached at the hip, as we so often say about these Ardent Sensor supports.
Oh my goodness, this fight at the Drake pit, Pobelter getting a little bit too greedy when he moves forward like this against a bunch of Gigabyte Marines. Nom 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 nom. And then they still get the Drake at the end of the day was a smite. So very good play by Gigabyte Marine.
I think that they just didn't have the wards there, so he didn't even see the teleport until Ole had come around. Then the moment he realizes, uh-oh, I'm in danger, he gets silenced, he gets knocked up, and unfortunately, you can't use any abilities when you are silenced.
A little bit inconvenient as the Immortals squad pushes up into enemy territory now again, looking to contest the jungle of Gigabyte Marines. Levi 2-0-3 on this Kayn, doing the best of anyone on his team. 100% kill participation, BF sword and inventory, likely a GA to make him that much harder to kill when he does run into these fights.
Yeah, he's going to try and carry, but knowing Kayn does not actually scale amazingly into the very late game. He feels great to play, but a lot of times he has that fall off, and Pobelter and Cody Sun, more so Cody Sun, are absolutely online right now. Just going to try and go back to the types of plays that were getting them the lead. They did die after Drake, but they still have 50 seconds of Baron. I'm going to try and chip down these turrets.
Still have a 6,000 gold lead, too, when they get into these fights in neutral territory. Marines have to play it so well to do well.
Just want to highlight that Levi, 200 farm on the Kayn. Don't know how he always does this, but he's always able to just channel farm into himself while not taking anything away from his teammates. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though, as Immortals are already sieging onto the base.
Yeah, still 30 seconds left to Baron, and Shen ultimate can threaten if Gigabyte Marines try and engage.
Immortals knocking down the turret. Now can they take the inhibitor itself? Nothing left to defend. It means it's a fair fight and open ground. Shen still pushing topside, can stand united at any time. Archie trying to silence these guys up. He's quite a lot of damage into that 4,000 health pool. He's got a lot of health, but not a lot of resistances right now, so he's not nearly as tanky as he seems. Cody Sun eats a lot of pain right now, but he gets back and healed immediately as Levi, really finding himself bursted down, now runs away, but Pobelter still able to pop the GA. Now they can find even more. Nevin's knocked up. Levi respawns, gets a 4-man's blade reach, but I don't think it's going to be enough to save the inhibitor.
It's not enough. Immortals is sticking together so well and just focus firing down the right targets. They get Nivan again and the inhibitor.
Immortals walk away victorious once more. Cody Sun has really been the big carry of Immortals this game. He had a bit of a rough start, losing his support to First Blood, but the pressure did not continue from the Gigabyte Marines. Xmithie decided to make his way down bot. They punished the flashless Lulu. They utilized the Xayah Rakan. Now it's a 4-0-3 Xayah, level 15, that is just ripping through the lineup with Gigabyte Marines.
And Levi goes over the wall, trying to steal away some chickens. He gets them, but that's about it.
You asked how he has 226 CS? A lot of enemy Raptor camps. Over and over again.
It's, what, 6 CS every time you steal one? That's a wave?
Yeah. He steals a lot of caps. To be fair, Levi had that game where he was like 350 CS within like a 35-minute game, which is pretty nuts. But now we can look back at how this inhibitor fight played out. Good knockup there from Levi, but then Pobelter with the good stun in response, knocking him back, delaying the engage. And Immortals, they're just buying time. Eventually, they're forced to use the Shen ulti, and then here they get the great knockup onto the Lulu. There's nothing Nevin can do. Levi doing his best to keep the team alive, but unfortunately for the Gigabytes, it just wasn't enough.
Gigabyte Marines, the situation gets bleaker and bleaker as time wears on. The slower-paced game has just been a slow bleed, almost for the entirety of it. That one mishap at the Drake, really the biggest mistake that we saw from Immortals. And now, they move up again, looking to make plays onto Optimus or the Tier 3, whichever comes first. One feather from Cody takes it out, but he's still going to be maybe in trouble. Never mind, grab the kill onto Levi for Pobelter. Immortals continues their push, Redemption to keep him healthy.
Sit back in that Redemption one more time, get the second inhibitor, rinse and repeat with inhibitor 3, or just wait a minute until you can get the Baron and go all the way for the Nexus. Immortals has played with so much control, except for 2 blips, which was the level 1 invade and the Ocean Drake the Gigabyte Marines ended up stealing away. But aside from that, it has just been a great display from Immortals.
I mean, we so often see teams hit the wall of these inhibitor turrets and say, no, wait for Baron, we'll push then, that's when we're going to make our move. Immortals just says no, they just walk straight in, take whatever they want, and now they've got one lane left to do it in. Rupture finds its way only onto Xmithie. Archie can't even walk close to this Xayah right now. Cody just outputs so much damage.
And you've got to think about what this means for the group as well. Immortals getting that 2-1 scoreline is going to solidify them in that second place spot. Having that kind of a lead is so advantageous moving into next week, and now we can just look back at how they were able to get that pretty quick kill on the revive.
Yeah, just tries to go in, doesn't have the GA this time. everyone uses the spells, he's gone, right? They're not able to initiate cleanly or together. In no way is so scared of all the Syndra and Xayah CC that he's not able to get close. They might try and rush this Baron on spawn, though.
Another
the only
Drake.
other chance they have.
Another Drake did go the way of Immortals. They picked up the mountain on their way out of the Gigabyte Marines base. Baron spawning right now. Gigabyte Marines only has Levi nearby, so no spawn chance for them. Immortals already getting into position.
Yeah, no Baron rush to B. No Way was just in the mid lane. Most likely not worth trying to contest this Baron, but there are very few options left, because if they do give up the Baron, their base is probably dead, but they're too slow on the play anyway.
So
Immortals.
much damage on the side of Immortals.
Yeah, and Immortals is getting set for the final push. I want to take this small moment before they push in to clarify my thoughts on Heal Ignite, because I think it can work in lane for those strengths, but I do not think it is good overall before you take it into every game in solo queue, specifically in pro play as well, when they are more willing to punish missed positions. It means there is no way out ever of a Gragas body slam, a Gragas ult, or a Rakan engage, and I think Immortals has done a very good job punishing that this game.
I also think it's always just a risk to run it into a Xayah Rakan lane, which in general you should never look to give away. But now here's Immortals, they're looking for the final push, they're looking for the game.
Redemption called down, silence down onto Flame, but he's just so tanky. Immortals have the raw stats to force this issue right now. Optimus and the rest of the Gigabyte Marines will hold the turret for this push, but the next minion wave will likely be it.
There's quite a lot of wave kill on the side of Gigabyte Marines, so I feel like Immortals need to send Flame down bot, get that minion wave pushed into Gigabyte Marines base to just split up the Gigabyte Marines so that they now have the Baron, they have the extra minions, but that tower's pretty low, they might just try and force it.
Here we go, Force comes out, Levi goes in, looking to find the burst. They got Cody's son! This could be the fight. Immortals now without their big carry. Archie taken low, Levi the one who's wild growth. Flame backing away, Redemption to keep them healthy. Gigabyte has to think how hard they want to chase this. Immortals is full HP.
What a beautiful play from the Gigabyte Marines. Knockup from Levi into insta-kill from Archie. Fantastic coordination that'll delay it for a little bit longer, but Immortals, I don't think they're dissuaded just yet.
Double Mountain Drake, they are going to heal up, and Gigabyte Marines use a lot. They're trying to just leverage these super minions to help them get the 3 inhibitor cycle.
Haunting onto Levi, the burst comes through from Pobelter, but there's your
they're in.
Realmort putting Archie into the back line, seeing what he can find. Rupture not making its way onto anyone just yet, but the silence and the polymorph will hold him there for a moment longer. Gigabyte Marines just doesn't have the damage to get these kills.
Yeah, they don't have the stickiness in their engagement. They don't have that hard CC from a Syndra stun or a Rakan engage. Everyone is just kind of slowly walking towards them. There we
And
go.
here we go,
Here's
there's the replay. So great knock-up there from Levi, and again, the immediate follow-up from Archie was fantastic. The one thing we can say about Gigabyte Marines is just they're so quick to collapse on a call. They find the pick onto Cody's son. They're able to buy a little bit more time, but their base is still in shambles. They're going to need to find so many more of these before IMT are at a real risk of a big comeback from the Marines.
Cody's son says, I might go with the Guardian Angel, because they have a lot of front-loaded burst, but then not so much sticking power after the fight. So in this case, I actually like Guardian Angel on 80 carries, when most times I like stuff like Mercurial Scimitar, but not going to be able to get that as well.
Immortals has 2 inhibitors to still take down. They have 1 inhibitor already down on the side of their opponents. Find here, stun from Pobelter, working its way towards that minion line, clearing those out. Xmithie on the front line. Flame here with the rest of the team, not even bothering to split push, doesn't need to. Mid lane inhibitor falls. Cody's son grabbing the credit on that one as the top lane inhibitor respawns. So essentially the same situation, just a little bit different. Bottom lane now the target. The poke coming out from Gigabyte Marines just doesn't do anything. Dawn goes through onto Archie, Spirit's Rescue down to prevent any sort of a counterattack. Blaze Breach only going to find those tanks yet again. Flame now backing himself away as Immortals gets 2.
Now the Baron has just ran out for Immortals. Surprised that they still had it, because I thought that it may have run out much earlier, but Gigabyte Marines did a good job of stalling things out. Now Levi could be in a bit of danger, but instead Immortals, their eyes are on that 3rd and final inhibitor. It's a pretty big minion wave in the bottom lane, so they may want to go and close that out. Or Immortals, they may just want to try and end the game now.
Yeah, just push for the 3rd inhib. Even without Baron, the super minions in the other 2 waves are going to create a forced response by Gigabyte Marines. And we also know they just don't have the greatest initiation, so Immortals could crack a lot of this base even without the Baron.
Let's see what they can do now that they've got their opponent stuck in their base. There's almost no way to leave when you've got 3 inhibitors down. Even if you win 5-for-0 team fight, it's difficult to make a lot happen with it oftentimes, just because you'll find your Nexus turrets getting beat on by 4 different super minions. And now that all 3 inhibitors are down, there's 2 coming from each lane every single wave. It's a full-time job to even contain this.
And that's why they haven't sent anyone back to the bottom lane, because those super minions have now hit the big minion wave that was stacking up for the Marines. They've got a minion wave pushing up bot. Immortals also have another minion wave pushing up top, and it's just the waiting game for Immortals at this point.
Stun goes through from Pobelter, finds its way onto 2. Levi, 2/3 HP. He does have the ability to heal himself up significantly in the fight using the ulti, but with the damage and burst that Immortals has, you've always got to pay attention to that.
Exactly, and it's probably not going to cost Immortals this game, but Cody Sun's mispositioning in the late game is becoming a big worry for Immortals. It hurt them a huge amount against Longzhu, and here he got killed at the mid inhibitor, and he took a large amount of poke as they were trying to finish the base, which forced them to pull back. Ocean Drake's healing him now. They have such a large lead, it probably won't matter, but there will come a time when their games are very close, and he has to position better.
They move on to the Elder Drake. They want to make sure that the next push into the Immortals, or into the Gigabyte Marine space, is the final one. They'll all back in unison, they'll shop for the final time, and they'll try to end this game. Gigabyte Marines, 10,000 gold down, Elder Drake on the enemy team. They've got to pull off one hell of a fight to stay in this one, while the super minions pour into their base. If it wasn't hard enough, it's got to be harder.
It's free farm, man. It's just tunneling into the base. You know, you can stack up everything you need. Bright side of losing 3 inhibitors.
Yeah, I mean, they would love to have No Way actually reach late game Kog'Maw, because he is 5,000 gold behind Cody Sun, who, by the way, has sold his boots. He's just got so much gold lying around that he keeps buying these things.
It's actually Pobelter that's been dealing with a large chunk of this damage. Again, kind of the unsung hero of the Immortal squad. He has been super consistent on this Syndra. Does have 2 deaths. That is the unfortunate circumstance that you put in when largely playing against champions like a Cho'Gath, but still been able to dish out the damage and assist his team in getting them to the state they're at right now.
Flame purposefully goes back to base just to make sure he's ready one last time. Picks up the stone plate. TP's back in. Immortals ready to siege the Nexus itself. Knockup from Levi only onto Xmithie. Doesn't really matter. He takes a swing out of the cask, looking for those initiations. Nexus turret number 1 almost down. Number 2 still okay, but with this amount of minions, neither one of them is going to last that long.
It's just a matter of time unless Gigabyte Marines try an all-out engage.
There you go. Optimus tries to flash in, able to find the root, but not going to be finding much else. Cody Sun with the damage. The taunt is locking Archie up, and he can't get away. No way. Free firing, but the damage just isn't there for him. Levi in some danger of his own as now he retreats back into the fountain. Cody Sun pops the GA. No way out of that one as the Nexus is exposed. And Immortals will take the win over Gigabyte Marines.
Very clean final fight from Immortals. They will be able to shut down the Gigabyte Marines, and they will be able to get themselves the extra win and finish 2-1 at the end of week 1 of groups.
Yeah, when all things are said and done, Immortals should be very happy with their performance in this group. They pulled one out against Fnatic. They had their first game against Longzhu, their most formidable opponent in this group. Played them close for 20 minutes and then fell behind. But this game, even after falling down to the first blood, were very steady in their victory.
The only steady part, or the only unsteady part, I should say, what you brought up, they just got to make sure they're minimizing those problems later on, right? There are a couple positioning issues.
Of both games, Fnatic have had that really high priority on Ryze. I wonder if they would even first pick it, given that it really allows Caps to roam and side lane as the game goes on.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big one. But also Galio is open in this draft here. We know Longzhu wants to play that champion as well. And so I've been reading Reddit lately. They're highlighted one of the dog champions he could actually beat Longzhu
The literal
with.
dog champion.
The actual dog champion.
Instead, though, it's going to be Rekkles getting his hands on the Tristana, one of the premier hyper carries, one of the only ones left with Kog'Maw and Xayah taken off the board.
Yeah, a lot of AD carries removed. Now, Varus is a fine matchup against this Tristana, or you can also run the Twitch, which we have seen quite a few times. And Prey's not exactly new to this champion, in case he locks it in.
You're not new to the Janna, not a common pick these days for him, but in meta's gone past on Najin Shield at Worlds in 2014. he was one of those big Janna players next to someone like Zero. Was on Royal Club at the time, so they will lock it in. I'm intrigued to see what the AD carry choice is. If it's just the normal Varus, this is definitely a cornerstone of the champion pool. In spring season, you either saw Prey on Ashe or Varus. It gives them initiation from bot lane, and Prey is famous for his arrows. Chain of Corruption, it's right up there, it's an initiator.
And of course, this is the new standard when a lot of those power picks are taken away. Varus seems to be the go-to carry, but it does give Fnatic the opportunity to pick up a jungler, round out the rest of their first pick.
And also note that they didn't look to Twitch. They did not want to draft the Twitch Janna on red side and have a losing bot lane. So they went for Varus for power. A lot of power on blue side as well.
Look what Fnatic are doing here with the Rakan. They're not taking Lulu and just matching the shield with the Janna. They want engage. When Fnatic are doing really well, Justice is on an engaged champion. And now they can actually also start targeting the bottom lane if they want to start ganking it in the game.
Both teams matching each other as we complete the first rotation. Junglers and bot lanes have to find out what the solo lane picks are going to be and what's going to be taken away, more importantly, as Gnar is the first ban.
And again, we have 4 members of Longzhu we focus on, and one that we pass over usually. That's the rookie Cuz, who's looking in his first season to become a world champion. The one initiation champion he's actually shown really good performance on has been the Gragas. His casks have been on point. You haven't had to really question his engage on this particular jungler. So it may not be the Kha'Zix, it may not be aggressive, but it's a good pick for Cuz.
I want to highlight that Galio is still available. Fnatic plays it in the top lane. Obviously, Longzhu plays it in the mid lane. Fnatic can still ban it away here if they want to, or if they leave it open. We have to see if PDD wants to play it. Because normally when he gets a champion like Galio, you can go to top lane and you can even assist bottom lane if needed.
Galio, Cho'Gath, they're big picks that certainly could be considered first pick on the red side for a blind pick. BDD 10 games played, only 5 deaths on frontline Galio. 88 players being reinvigorated with him, and you see a Trundle ban, so it seems like Soaz happy to play a tank.
Yeah, exactly. That could signal a Cho'Gath for Soaz in the top lane.
Maokai, I guess, as well.
Maokai is another one, just in case it is not locked in here by Khan up in the top lane.
Remember that Jace is banned, so Jace, Trundle, like you say, together, says tanks
There's
in the
the
top
Galio.
side.
Is going to make it through. Could be a point of concern for Fnatic. Fnatic may have loved to get their hands on that one. We've seen Jesus alongside a Galio, especially with Rakan, be such a threat.
And if this is another team, you look on the red side and you say, well, surely it's Galio top because they're low damage. You don't really see a secondary damage dealer if it ends up being a tank top lane. But Longzhu have tried alongside KT Rolster to play these very early to mid-game comps. Do they work in the Ardent meta? That's a different question, because if the game goes long, low damage is always a concern.
Yeah, and if they want more magic damage, which I don't necessarily think they have to go for, because they got Gragas Galio, then Rumble is available in this draft. Otherwise, I still think you can go for a physical damage dealer in the top lane for Khan.
We could see this actually locked in here. It's a dog champ for sure, but there was an essay. It's locked in. Okay, we see this played once in the LCK promotion tournament by Ever8 winners. They ran Nasus into Maokai. You can free farm in the lane. There's the potential for turret dives, and it was this exact setup. Galio mid lane and Nasus top lane.
Soaz felt so safe in blind picking a tank because they banned the Jace, they banned the Trundle, even removed the Jarvan, and then a Nasus shows up, that's his champion.
Oh God, the literal dog champ against Soaz. He's fighting his own demons right in front of us.
You could argue he brought this on himself. He talked about it, he called it out, and Khan has obliged. Seeing this pick at Worlds is so exciting. Another unique pick, another unique champion for Worlds 2017.
And I feel like Longzhu obliging us after the Gigabyte Marines wanted to play a standard game. They're saying, hey, we'll be the ones that are going to mix it up a little bit. But now we have such a unique composition assembled on the side of Longzhu. What is this Nasus doing? Is this just the standard farm it up solo queue Nasus? What does this guy bring to the table?
I mean, it will in the early game be a lot about just farming, but in the late game, he's such an absolute monster. Also now, with the reduced cooldown on his Q during his ulti, it is so hard to deal with him if you get that far into the game. So the fact that Fnatic are running a lot of engage simply means that if they can force enough fights before we go to late game, they can use that effectively.
All right, here we are. Fnatic versus Longzhu. The Nasus pick mixing everything up. An exciting moment here for the team. Of course, if if you haven't already, folks, there is now a chance you can head over to the store. If you want to participate in Worlds 2017, check out the Championship Ash skin. 25% of the proceeds from Championship Ash and Ward skins are being added to the prize pool, with another 25% being donated to charity. And of course, there's the Chroma as well. We've only seen it once. I thought maybe Prey would play the Ash this game, but instead he's on the Varus, and we're seeing already some attention on the top side.
Talked a lot about Khan, who is caught up here, but probably not going to be enough damage to take him down.
A lot of early poke. Clearly, Fnatic are aware that this Nasus could be a problem if they let it go unscathed through the early game.
They know he's going to be recalling, so they could get deep vision if they want, and certainly the Saplings will do that, long as you're backing away from their top side. But I wanted to mention Khan, because I think last year we came in, high expectations on Smeb. People were waiting, when are we going to see the carries? When are we going to see something different? Smeb played Trundle, Smeb played Standard. We see 2 games of Jarvan from the side of Longzhu. This time the Nasus available, but I have to hold the point.
Number 1. Dark Sphere's gonna check. Multiple members there. That's the body slam into the immediate flash out. Caps gonna be down the summoner spell alongside Broxah.
Exactly, 2 members. I think Fnatic a little bit baited because no one seemed to take damage from that Q from Caps. Everyone stepped out from Longzhu and then right back in.
I actually think it's a pretty poor level 1 decision, because if you consider Fnatic knew that Longzhu had vacated their top side, it's safer to invade a part of the jungle you know the enemy is not on, and re-invading bot side is a risk that was unnecessary, I would say, for Fnatic. They could have taken the long route to bot lane and ignored it. Instead, they get caught.
To make it even worse here, Caps could not go back to base. No TP on him, so he's down a lot of HP early on. Will have to use both his potions as well to just get full HP in this lane. And we know that BDD is just here to farm in the early game and then get that level 6 on Galio. And suddenly, if you want to play this game where you're trying to shut down the Nasus, Galio can join in and help.
Difficult place as well with both Flash and Burn. It's going to be so much more difficult. Caps and Broxah, so frequently the members we talk about on the side of Fnatic, now both flashless, both significantly less able to be proactive here in the early game.
Forever 8 winners, when they did play Nasus Galio versus Maokai, stacked the CDR, it was Trinity Force early, just a carry, more of the carry build you see in solo queue, and turret dives were real. Galio is insurance on the top and on the bot, which is big for Longzhu.
But now, of course, one thing we have to highlight is when you look at this matchup, most recently against IMT for Longzhu, their bot lane did suffer. Their bot lane did fall behind, and we have to wonder, is this an avenue for Fnatic to exploit?
I mean, we know Fnatic wants to get the bot lane ahead. We saw when Fnatic played against Immortals, they hard camped the lane. It worked, as you said just before, in the first day of Worlds, where Gorilla died multiple times in lane. The same thing probably needs to happen for Fnatic to succeed early on. You don't want to try and feed your own Maokai. You need to get Reckless going on this Tristana. That's why they draft Rakan, to also have some CC setup.
But the window is small, because the moment that Galio gets ultimate, the headaches start to grow. Sure, it is not Alistar to repel those early ganks, but Janna can do a bit of peeling, even at level 2. Once Galio gets to level 6, he will also have disengage. So it's not necessarily a hard timer, but to try to recreate with this comp, you need to get going soon.
Yeah, and you also kind of want that level 6 on Broxah. Meanwhile, Gorilla and Prey, probably knowing the game plan from Fnatic is play around bot side with the draft, with how Fnatic has played in the past. And their job is just to stay alive and don't actually try anything risky. And it's one thing these guys are very known for, at least avoiding, you know, the ganks.
And you think back to the Varus over the Twitch that was available. If you draft Varus, he can always do something. If he needs to push, put more points into Q. Hell, E is even decent in that situation as well. He's the much stronger laner, and if you're looking to leave someone on an island, Twitch with Relic Shield, that's risky. A Varus, he's certainly someone that can make the best, even if the game is not going to be about bot side early for Longzhu Gaming.
Terrifying champion to try to dive out, try to pressure, especially once he hits that level 6 mark as well. So just continuing to build on to that point we made earlier about this being a very small window for Fnatic to exploit. If they want to find this lead in the early game, it has to be quite early. But for now, they may have the vision on the bottom side, but not a whole lot else. Even the pressure is starting to balance out as the wave bounces against the bot lane tower.
There's another thing I want to mention about Nasus, but I'm just waiting to see if Cuz is doing anything. No, he's stepping away. There was a buff that happened to Nasus quite some patches ago where his E also started reducing 15% armor when he used it on targets. And if you look at Longshu's composition, the majority of the damage is going to be physical coming in, obviously because of Nasus himself being able to smack around with the Q, and reducing that armor here on some of these big tanks on Fnatic is actually very effective and very important in the late game.
Yeah, the Spiritfire used to be flat armor and MR. Now it being percentage means it scales into the late game, and we wondered who the second threat would be, expecting Galio mid. the Nasus infinite scaling certainly does fit the bill, even though his kite ability is always going to be something to keep a track of.
It's just a little nerve-wracking. So often we see teams put themselves in a position where they're playing against a clock.
We might get the first gank in that bot lane here. Praying Gorilla are pushed pretty far up, but playing it safe right there, reading the situation correctly.
Yeah, 2 question mark pings around the bot side was enough early information, I assume, from BDD after seeing him pass through mid lane to stave off that particular start. Prox is spotted.
BDD knows what's up. Just gonna back right out. Taking it forward here, moving on as Broxah goes back to the top side of the map. He is gonna walk face first into Cuz, but Cuz already getting what he wants out of the exchange.
Watching Soaz come down. Nasus so far just free farm, first item purchase already, 10% CDR on the Sheens. He's happy there as
Oh,
Cuz might be
Soaz.
caught. Level 4.
Not exactly where he wanted to be. Luckily for him, it is just the Maokai. All the burst damage used up. Soaz not looking to commit the ultimate. Knows it might be more important for this laning phase. A lot of things to consider here. But Cat Champ versus Dog Champ, top side of the lane. Not the most exciting matchup. Once again, waiting for the infinite scaling, and this is the thing that scares me. If you're playing against Longzhu, and their game plan is to sit here and wait, all of the pressure is on Fnatic to do something, because eventually, as you mentioned earlier, Nasus is going to be unstoppable.
But even that phrase you utter is surreal to someone who cast the LCK, because Longzhu were on the faster ebb of gameplay. They were not SKT, they were not Sanford, they did not focus on the outscale. They focused on their early to mid-game shot calling, their understanding of win conditions, which largely were precipitated around getting big leads. And usually you see the first 4 champions, not including the Nasus, and you think that's what this draft is about. They flip it on its head. They're playing a different type of meta at Worlds, but they are going to be comfortable as the game goes on.
Kana already sitting on about 100 stacks in the early game. He's not really been under any pressure. We'll just keep farming up in that top lane.
Now, though, as we move a little bit further into the game, level 7 for Caps, he doesn't have pressure here. Not a whole lot of kill threat onto the Galio without some help. Maybe he can find the opportunity to roam. How Flash is now back up, much easier for him to play out the rest of this laning phase. Cuz taking his time, both junglers approaching level 6. This could be the catalyst, the point for playmaking.
It's just so important that Cuz is always moving in, placing a few deep wards, so he's finding Broxah. He's able to see if Caps is roaming as well. And again, it just means Prey and Gorilla are going to be so safe in that bot lane. You can see how Fnatic are always hovering around the bot lane, but they simply cannot get down there unspotted.
That means extra time. That means Nasus getting access to minions. He is ahead in CS compared to the Maokai. It's only good things for Longzhu. The pace of the game is slowed. We already see a couple of early trades onto Soaz. Not going to be a Galio coming in this time, but soon that game plan may be enacted.
And of course, Sheen, a nice early item purchase, lifesteal from Nasus as well, means it's pretty easy for him to sustain up in this lane. May not have the kill threat, but Cousin Prey could. That's the level 6. Chain's not going to connect. Rare misstep from Prey on that one.
Warning shot. Telling Jesse what's going to happen next time he's overextending in the bottom lane.
And now, Longzhu just going to take advantage of any pressure they got on the bottom side, but it's immediately removed with the ultimate gone. It's so much easier for Rekkles and Jesus to play further up. No fear of a counter engage.
A sedate game with Longzhu involved. Not what I expected here, and I know when I was saying for the hopes for this game pre-tournament, I wanted to see late game fights between Rekkles and Prey, 2 of those top-tier mechanical AD carries. And at this pace, we may very well get it.
Definitely the case. Right now, it feels like Prey has kick-started himself with the option to go for a more, gold-efficient starting item, at least in terms of gold production.
I'm just afraid that when we are setting up for the big late game AD carry fights, Khan just kind of takes over on his like 5 million stacks Nasus, one-shotting Rekkles or Caps in one of these fights, because once again, it's a very slow game in favor of Longzhu. BDD's not been able to use his ulti because why? He's just saving it. He literally just wants to be defensive at the moment, and it's all he needs to do.
Well, at this point, we have to start asking some of the big questions, which is, for example, how many stacks have you guys seen Nasus hit in the game? Because we could get to some big numbers here. We're at 160
Are we
already.
talking about solo queue or competitive? Because you mentioned an Ever 8 game, there was a Dignitas game for Someday. There's not a whole lot of a sample size to go on here.
I'm going with either.
I mean, I have quite a famous Nasus myself when I'm playing.
Oh, really?
I'm only last hitting with E, however, because I don't want to get too strong in the game.
See, it's the deliberate training weights. You got to hold yourself back. Well, even if Khan decides to play that way, luckily for Longzhu. He still has the Wither, which I feel like is such an undervalued tool against one reliable late game damage threat.
I mean, just consider the situation. You get Withered, you're against Gragas, Galio, and also the Varus. Do you use some Cruel Scimitar on him? Because that's what's going to be the reality. Choosing your CC. You might have to see a Rakan go very early in Mikhail's purely to actually increase his damage cuts.
But still, not a lot of catalysts for action. We thought the bot lane might be posed for it. Of course, Prey does have the tools to force engages. Once again, it's just not in the Longzhu playbook right now to force anything aggressive because it's just not needed.
And with that Scimitar that might happen in the late game, problem is obviously with Khan getting some cooldown reduction, the fact that his own cooldown on this W is so short, it's going to be like, what, 10 seconds?
Maybe less.
Maybe even less. So when Reckless will have that small window where he uses his QSS to get some damage up, he needs to burn through tanks. It is super difficult unless Fnatic, and it's why we keep highlighting getting bot lane ahead. But right now, Prey is sitting with the same CS as Reckless. No tower's even taken some real damage just yet. And it's just meaning we're kind of waiting for the big moment where Fnatic pulls the trigger.
Guys, we waited for day 4. We want what is the
Might
counter
be now.
sensor? Yep, hold the point.
Also going to go wide because flashing out. He's not a damage drops, but just tickling him. Bit of a fumble there from Broxah. Not going to be what Fnatic wanted. And now Caps out of mana. BDD is going to have lane priority.
Push up, BDD. Happy to take these good trades. Force Caps behind. Extend the game further every time. You get that click over to Nasus, see the number increasing. The timer only gets more severe.
Khan just perpetually comfortable in this lane. Luckily for Fnatic, they do have lane pressure. Soaz is able to push the Nasus out, but for how much longer? How much longer until the Nasus actually has a kill threat on the Maokai, especially with the Storm Raiders? It's going to be an easy chase down.
So now that Fnatic are unable to stop the Nasus, they can't really gank bot, maybe they should switch around the focus. I like what Caps is doing now in trying to go up and see if he can kill Khan. Other thing you can do is you can try and lane swap with your dual lane, send him top. Let's see what happens here.
GTC, ultimate's going to come out. Not a lot of mana in the pool for Khan. Is still alive. Caps playing with fire here. Second he hits me, he's going to draw that tower aggro. Soaz not a lot of health. Just going to clear the wave. TP is going to be used as Longzhu take the bottom tower. Solid play from Longzhu, and Fnatic not getting anything.
Yeah, I think Fnatic early on in this game here should have, when they had a push in the bot lane, recalled, swapped to top lane, and try and just rush down that turret here. Open up this map a little bit so Khan is not feeling so safe.
But so much happened in an instant there for Longzhu. It was as the rest of Fnatic were backing that play happened. They took bot lane turret. We cancel his teleport in the blink of an eye. Nasus lives, they get bot lane turret. They're going to take a Drake as well, and nothing happens to the Nasus. He teleports back in with a completed Trinity Force.
And it is difficult right now to be Fnatic because making that lane swap call is not easy. You feel like you're getting pushed in the bot lane, and if you don't get a good swap and get actually the tempo advantage where you take down the first tower first, it doesn't feel great for most teams. So it's not an easy situation to be in, and they are constantly looking for that potential gank, but the good vision control just stops them.
And it's not an easy situation for any team, but it's especially concerning for Fnatic because when you look at their most recent game, we know what happens when they fall in a deficit. And we know the struggles they can have when they're not confidently ahead. You can see the difference between how these teams stacked up against Immortals. Longzhu, clean win coming out once they got that lead. Fnatic, a much shakier road.
We will get to see now, though, Longzhu's dual lane going towards that top side. So it is Longzhu initiating their own lane swap. Khan is going to get removed from the 1v1, at least for a moment. His Trinity Force is completed. Fnatic want to find a way to try and get down a tower.
I mean, at this point, putting Varus and Janna in a short lane, just like they have been the entire game in bot, is absolutely fine. You cannot slow down Nasus. That ship has already sailed 137 CS at 14 minutes, basically at pace with everyone else. So might as well start setting up the Varus to hit his mid-game spike. The on-hit build with the Sensor and the Rage Blade certainly more than underway, but Soaz is here looking for a lane game.
Yeah, Lola trap he's setting up. Broxah is going to get spotted in the river going towards topside, so Longzhu will be aware that something is happening up here. Once again, Broxah notice on the ward. There's another one coming up here.
Important to keep your eyes on Galio as well. For now, BDD is locked in the mid lane, clearing out the wave. It's not a long walk, though. This could be the setup the Fnatic need, but it's a small window. They need to take advantage of it. A little bit more as the tornado comes out. It's going to pull the trigger. Looks like just the tower in their sights. Canacree making it easy. Tristana still able to siege, but the cast going to clear the way. Broxah not going to get locked up, but Jez as well. Reckless could be next. Has to rocket jump to safety, and Fnatic still not getting anything.
But again, it's because it's taken them so long to initiate this swap here in the game. Once they couldn't find the kills in bot lane, they had to do it earlier to try and get down a tower, to try and speed up the tempo, because now they're just losing towers in the bottom lane.
Terrifying to watch too. Nasus over 300 stacks at this point in the game, only 15 minutes in. Khan is a farming machine. Something you have to respect, because this matchup no longer quite one-sided, but Brox's season opportunity. Prey has been locked up. A nice Monsoon gonna stop it. No further aggression comes in. Fnatic once again denied.
Give a cookie over to Kaz as well for that body slam onto Jess, is denying his entrance into the fight. Khan and Source fighting down here, but everyone steps away.
How do you beat the tank meta? First answer from Europe, it was Trundle. The Nasus doing the same thing. It's been pushing and ignoring Maokai damage. Speaking of damage.
Chess is going to get out with his life, right? Taking a lot back from the tower and no mana left. Brox is doing what he can, but the Blast Cone just keeps Longzhu out and into safety. Fnatic are trying to get something, but they're not getting anything in any one of these exchanges.
It's exactly the game plan from Longzhu. It must be so frustrating to be on Fnatic and at the last pick realize that the timer you are on is not what you expected. The Galio-Nasus duo, only seen once in a game that not many watched, is working a treat. Wasn't quite able to take down the inhibitor turret bot lane. Has it low. Speaking of top lane standing gold, Fnatic have to keep giving away free objectives.
And it's just important to highlight that Khan himself is just farming. He's not actually like outplaying anyone or doing a whole lot. It's just the rest of Longzhu on the bottom side of the map, just like we've seen in the LCK multiple times, with defensive vision, by playing smart or avoiding any potential plays from Fnatic. And that's kind of why the game was so slow early, and there was never really an easy opening to take. Most teams around the world will always make a mistake here and there and give you at least a chance to force a fight on them. Barely been possible in this game.
Difficult road for Fnatic. They need to find an opportunity to come back. You can see Soaz and Caps grouping up. Maybe they're hoping to find a pick. They've certainly got enough CC. But Ward will just catch him on the side before they begin. Cats come out. Hoping for a little bit of lockup. The tower is low, but there's not a creep wave there. They have to commit to the dive. They wanted Caps is committing, but not the way that he wanted to. Jez is trying to make his way out. Galio coming in as well. Cuz on the 100 blood. But here comes Nasus. There's the withered half held. My God, the siphoning strike. Reduced cooldown as well. Cuz retreating. Nasus finding the first kill, the latest first blood thus far. Prey taking down Caps as well. Longzhu cutting through the net.
And the difference with this side lane champion into tanks, he actually provides burst damage in a fight. Every Q will proc Siphoning Strike, just like an early game jungle Ezreal. Nothing Fnatic can do. Rekkles half health and withered. One of the worst feelings ever. Give him Ardent Sensor, give him other items. After the wither comes through, he's not going to have the damage to do anything.
Such a good counter pick in this game here from Longzhu's side. They saw this draft from Fnatic, they saw the different tanks, they saw the Tristana, who is so focused on her auto-attacking, and then they have this Nasus ready, who we know in the late game is just even better than in the past.
And we have to remember, we're introducing Khan to a lot of the viewers at home. This is the guy who wanted a counter pick to the Renekton that was dominating the early game and the early part of summer season. He locked in Mordekaiser straight up and took him into lane. This guy always has the mad scientist view of what takes down. He always wants lane priority. He's had no issues in the side lane, and we get to see him in a fight. Very nice chain of corruption and also cast from Cuz.
Yeah, exactly. This Striker performance from Cuz here is very, very good to just once again make it hard for Fnatic to start the fights. At this point though, as soon as they didn't actually get the first kill, all these different tanks are just gonna run you down.
And Rekkles talked so much about his matchup versus Prey, what it would mean for him to beat Prey. But he doesn't get to fight Prey, he has to fight Khan, and Khan beats 80 carries. This is so solid for the Nasus.
It beats some allies
tanks too! Oh, that's gotta hurt for Soaz. Another kill dropping for the Nasus, but a fight is breaking out in the mid lane. Longzhu stalling out Fnatic once again.
Right now we're on 430 stacks for Khan on this Nasus, so not even 20 minutes into the game and we're plus 400.
And just be clear, he can't enter lane. I mean, I say Soaz cannot enter lane against the Maokai. Permanent wither, the CDR is mostly getting up there, at least 20% from the Trinity Force. Takes him down, percentage shred on the Siphoning Strike. Fires everywhere on the map, and they also still have that Galio ult up. They haven't needed to use it much.
Backing off, Caps getting caught out. Even the tanks around have enough damage to take down the Syndra. Winston Ward ticking. Prey actually going to grab that one. Longzhu are just playing with their food. 7K gold lead, 20 minutes into the game. Nothing for Fnatic, on the verge of getting perfect game.
And that's the really worrying thing to say. 3-0 into a perfect game, so as to already dead.
Chains of Corruption landing for Prey. He may have missed one, but every other one has connected thus far. We can see the 1v1 replay in the picture-in-picture. Important to remember how we got here, because that is a Rift Herald in the middle of Fnatic's base at 20 minutes. Khan can cut through these towers in an instant. Fnatic are out of options. They've got one last chance, one opportunity to try to seize a fight, but there is nothing in their wheelhouse. There is nothing in the toolkit. All they see is Nasus in front of them. This game is the story of Khan farming it up and bringing it home.
And we get to see a dancing Rift Herald in professional play. It only